WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Now, the John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Sometimes you have low expectations. You go into something and you say, well, I know this is a 3-star hotel. I'm not expecting it to be the Ritz-Carlton. And what you get is good enough, but it's just, bleh. Yesterday I went in thinking, okay, I'm going with the 3-star hotel, listening to that press conference. And you heard it on 97.5 The Fanatic. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm not expecting groundbreaking information. I'm not expecting anything that's going to wow me. But what I was expecting was competency. I didn't get that yesterday. I didn't get that from the head coach. I didn't get that from the general manager. And what I got was, honestly, the worst press conference I have ever seen. I got to see Bobby Petrino, Dan Quinn, and some other people in the past with some bad press conferences. This was terrible. Absolutely atrocious. And I didn't expect this. I expected it to be something where, and Pat's words ring in my ear a lot. It's a side effect of just hearing, what did you expect? They're going to be, they're not going to tell you anything. It's going to be, I didn't expect incompetency. That was the worst press conference I have ever heard in my life from a professional sports team, from a head coach or otherwise. I even sprung it on my kids last night in my class at Temple, talking about how bad that was. And I know that I've got 20 and 21-year-olds that are more prepared to sit behind a microphone and answer a question than Nick Sirianni was yesterday. They took 8 days to prepare for that. 8 days to be able to say, okay, we're ready for prime time. We're ready to give the answers. We're ready to talk about moving forward. And what we got was more questions than answers. That was bad. And honestly, if they were coached up for that, that was terrible. If they were coached up, and I do believe they were, that was a terrible, horrifying performance yesterday. We're going to let you hear a couple of these coming up here. But Bob, as a man who spent way too many hours sitting in events like that, your initial thoughts on what you saw yesterday and what you heard.
So as soon as it gets done, my immediate thought was, wow, they don't put much into linebackers. They don't put much into safeties. They don't put much into running backs. They don't put much into their head coach either. That's how I felt. I was like, Nick Sirianni looked like a beaten, yeah, we'll keep you. Just go up there and don't embarrass us. Like, you don't have any answers. The obvious question, which is hard to ask, what do you do here? What had to be asked, even if you weren't going to ask it before the press conference started, because that's what the press conference led to. I said to you, if I was in that press conference yesterday, and I couldn't go because I had some family stuff, but if I was in that press conference yesterday, I wanted to wait to see some of the things that were said, and I would build my questions off of that. Obviously, you have preconceived questions that you're going to have, but what is said is where I like to build my questions too. My question after what was said would have been, I'm sorry, Nick, excuse me. What do you do as far as coaching goes? You're talking about bringing in an offensive coordinator that'll run everything. You're talking about you fired a defensive coordinator, brought somebody else to do something, and maybe once in a while you sit in on defensive meetings. Like
I may pop in, yes, on.
Yeah, like what's the description of a head coach? I'm the head coach.
Really?
I know that. I know that's your title. I don't. What does it entail? And we'll get into all that and all. But yeah, that was my thought yesterday. Was kind of, wow, they really just don't want anyone there that kind of has their own thoughts. It seems like.
Or, all I could think of, Pat, was Drew Carey or Bob Barker at the end of The Price is Right. Have your pet spayed or neutered, because they most certainly neutered Nick Sirianni before that press conference. He didn't look like a man large and in charge. And I thank you for your words echoing in my head. I really appreciate that, by the way.
It's public service that I offer. That was quite embarrassing. I put in our show notes. I understand why it took 8 days for them to have that presser, because they put it off like you put off getting a driver's license renewed. They had no answers. I don't know if they realize how bad it looks when the media has to ask a head coach, what do you do here? And his answer is, I'm the head coach.
He wasn't prepared for it. I can't believe it.
The first thought I had was the movie Vice about Dick Cheney. And if you've ever seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't portray George W. Bush in a great light. It kind of portrays him as, all right, you're the president, but the guy running everything is Dick Cheney. Like, you go ahead, George, you play president. And that's basically what I felt like we got confirmation on of Nick Sirianni's playing head coach. He's cosplaying as a head coach. Like, you don't call the offense. Thank God, by the way. Thank God he's gotten that taken away from him. And you don't call the defense, and you kind of just pop into meetings every once in a while, and, you get a smoothie, and you put some stickers on your hat. Like, what are we doing here?
Now, you know who I blame? And it's the first part of this blame game is the veteran players that all came out and said, oh, he's the greatest. This guy's such a great guy. He's such a great motivator. He's such a great administrator. And again, I asked, why did I not hear one of them say, but, man, he can X and O's with the best of them. When we go out in that field, man, we know we're prepared. We have great game plans. We believe in it. None of that. And I understand why, hearing Nick talk.
Well, it's weird. One of the most level-headed, I think, reporters out there that covers the Eagles is our own Tim McManus.
Great job.
Does a great job there. It was his question. He was the one that said, if the offensive coordinator is going to run the offense and the defense coordinator is going to run the defense, what's your job here? And he goes, I'm head coach. And then Tim followed it up like, I mean, more of like, what does it entail? That's Tim McManus asking that question. It's not like
he's not going for the gotchas.
No, not like somebody from the outside coming in or, someone looking to make their name off of a podcast to ask a question to put the coach in, in the jaws of it. It's Tim McManus, like the most level-headed reporter you can. He's like, look, I'm asking this because, people want to know, what do you do?
What are you responsible for?
I've never seen anything like it. And even the looks, like when they came out, I looked like, oh, my God, did you just get like a tongue lashing from Jeffrey Lurie for 7 straight days? They both came out, Howie, I'm the tough guy with the,
little scruff.
I got the scruff going on and the cool hoodie with the expensive watch. And, I usually don't care about that stuff. But when they came out, I was just like, wow. Now, they shouldn't come out all happy and all that. They just lost 6 or 7, and they got their asses kicked in a playoff game. But, yeah, no good vibes came out of that yesterday. None.
Let's hear where Nick Sirianni first gets asked the question, Nick, what is it that you do?
Nick, if the offensive coordinator is going to be in charge of the offense and the defensive coordinator is going to be in charge of the defense, what is your role going to be?
The head coach.
I still, when I heard that, I could hear, it was weird because they didn't have their mics on, but I could hear Tyrone Johnson howling, just waiting for the mic to be back turned on after that answer. And Best Show Ever was all over yesterday, did a great job. And then he was asked to sort of explain more about it.
Nick, if the offensive coordinator is going to be in charge of the offense and the defensive coordinator is going to be in charge of the defense, what is your role going to be?
The head coach of the football team.
What does that entail? How does it change?
Yeah, I guess it'd be this very similar to what's going on right now. Does that mean I'll sit more into defensive meetings at times? Maybe. Right? Instead of always being in an offensive meeting, maybe I go to a defensive meeting here and there. But my job is to be the head coach of the team, not the head coach of the offense, not the head coach of the defense, not the head coach of the special teams, but be the head coach of the football team. And so that's diving into that, building the culture, having a relationship with the guys on the football team, because I know when I have that connection with the guys on the football team, that's when things are, that's when the culture is working at high level. And then that's where our connection with the players and then their connection with each other works well too.
Oh my God, what a bunch of gobbledygook. And if I hear one more person who wants to defend Nick Sirianni, call this radio station and say, oh, well, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh are just like this. Bull crap. You're out of your mind. You know nothing if you're saying that. If you mention Nick Sirianni with Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh and how they run their teams, you're talking about guys who are bosses, who are absolutely on top of things, who absolutely dictate in their organization how things are being done. Mike Tomlin, if they tried to say to him, Mike, we're going to hire your coordinators. You're not going to have anything to say about your offense. You're not going to have anything to say about your defense. Mike Tomlin walks and gets another job tomorrow. Nick Sirianni doesn't do that. So, Howie, explain to us, why didn't you fire Nick Sirianni?
The important thing for us to look at is before the stretch, which was a difficult stretch, not diminishing the 1-6 stretch at the end. We're 26-5 over the last 31 games. I mean, that's 4 times the amount of games that we played over this stretch. That is hard to do in the National Football League. That is hard to find a head coach in this league who has that record of success. I think we were 33-11 up until that point with Nick. We made the playoffs 3 straight years again. Not okay finishing 1-6, so I'm not sitting up here saying that, but it is hard to find somebody who can do those sort of things.
When I hear about the resume, I always say, Bob, the minute I hear a general manager, coach, or anybody just start, well, let me read to you from the media guide, the resume. That's always when I know I can't answer the question, so I'm going to talk to you about what we did in the past.
Yeah, but I can't disagree with them. I just can't.
Well, the numbers are the numbers.
Well, it's numbers. It's a Super Bowl appearance. It's, that record that he said. How do you judge a coach? You judge them by your record. If they didn't go 1-6 in this last stretch, we wouldn't be talking about Nick Sirianni as the head coach. It would be a given that he's here. I'll go back to the one thing. What did we do, Sirianni? I'm sorry. I'm losing my mind because everything's going on at once. What did Sirianni talk about before that? Oh, this is what it was. His explanation of what do you do here, if that didn't just reek of 2 things. One, this group really loves emotional intelligence. My God, all he said was, yeah, I'll pop in a meeting here and there and this and that. But you know what? If I connect with the players and all that. The second thing I took out of it was, God, if I know anything about defense in the NFL and I want to be a coordinator, I can't call them quick enough. Hey, I hear you have a head coach that isn't even going to come in on my meetings. I can do whatever the hell I want as a defensive coordinator. Sign me up. Sign me up, because you just had a head coach that went, yeah, you know what? Maybe once in a while I'll pop in on a defensive meeting. Are you kidding me? All right, give me that job. No boss to answer to. I can do what I want. Let me have at it.
It's a terrible experience how that went down yesterday. Tim McManus from On the Best Show Ever stepped in and said, hey, here's what the, I guess, bright spot about it is.
It seems to me that we're in store for a significant shift. Some of the most important words that I heard Sirianni say was that the new offensive coordinator was going to be his offense. That is different, as we know, from what has happened under Sirianni since he got here. Now, there's been guys who have been empowered to be play callers on Sunday, but Sirianni has said over and over and over again, and it is my offense. It is my offense. And here he was saying it's going to be our offense, and the offensive coordinator is going to be in charge of that offense. So that is pretty significant development from where I sit.
Pat, I think that's good news. I think that was good news to come out of it.
It's great news.
Exactly. Well, as long as they get the hire right. Right? I mean, it sounds like this is not going to be some newbie. They're going to go with somebody that.
Yeah.
Colin?
This guy's going to come in. He's going to have his own way to go, and he's going to be in charge, and we love it and all that. I started to look at it yesterday. If I didn't know anything about this team currently, and they didn't tell me who those guys up there were, I would have said, oh, GM, assistant GM?
Yes.
Honest to God.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah. It didn't sound like somebody that's in charge of a football team. And if you look, if you go back and read, and we'll help you out through it throughout the day about this press conference a little bit, but if you look at every beginning of the answer by Nick Sirianni, if it's not, we got to do a better job of getting guys in better positions, which Howie said numerous times too, it was, we're always looking to grow as a football team. Oh, we always want to get individuals better. Oh, we're always looking to they can't, there's no immediate answer, because I don't think the wheels spin quick enough. The answer has to be, yeah, we're just looking to improve there. That's always the goal. Think. Oh, yeah, the linebacker position. Well, we're going to take a look at that. And, what is I heard nothing definitive. I want to, I would have liked somebody come out there and just be, we sucked. And God, we got to get better at this. And we have to do this better. And I was horrible at the offense. And I don't know why our offense got so stale. And I don't know why we ran bubble screens all the time. I hear exactly what everybody's saying. We got to get better there. I got nothing out of it. And I don't, it frustrated me. Like, what are you doing?
I'm sure it frustrated you guys too. So you're going to join us at 610-632-0975. And if you are somebody who is in any way defending Nick Sirianni, I got to hear it. I got to hear your case. Because maybe you heard something that gave you more confidence. Maybe made you think, you know what? This guy can get this fixed. We want to talk to you. It's 610-632-0975. Let's get your day started. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
What is it you do here? I'm Pat Egan.
By Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White is here for the pro. And again, I'm fascinated if there's anyone on the train of, I can see why it's good to stay with Nick Sirianni after that. I really am. I'm fascinated. And the thing is, somebody may hear something or understand something better. Like, I heard this from him and I liked it. All I heard was, you hired a guy to be a head coach, and he's nothing like any other head coach in the NFL. Because the head coach in the NFL either has a specialty on one side of the ball, and they have a very heavy hand in it, or they are one of the great administrators of it, and like a Tomlin or a John Harbaugh. But those guys are bosses. By the way, good stuff, and I appreciate Dave sending it along to me. John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin ran their coordinator hire processes. Their management signed off on them hiring coordinators. When coordinators leave, they run the process, and then the senior management says, okay, good. Yeah, we like the guy. Run him past him. Completely backwards as to the way this organization does it. It's a completely different thing. We're going to have some Speak for Yourselves today coming up with Bob just to be able to just get us through some of this content. And we'll hear what he's thinking as far as what was said. James in Virginia wanted to get on early with us this morning. Good morning, James. You're on the Fanatic.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've always taken like a great amount of pride in being an Eagles fan, and part of that pride was like we're a high-functioning organization. We don't, poop our pants and embarrass ourselves. But what an embarrassing day it was yesterday. Nick, if you want to be a cheerleader, man, just say it. Like, just grab some pom-poms and do it. And the fact that Howie had to, interrupt him and save him from his, mindless babbling. Nick Sirianni has never, ever been good at press conferences, ever. And I remember the first press conference, we were ready to fire him after that embarrassment. But, how have you not gotten better? How have you had 8 days to prepare and pride yourself on, self-evaluation, and you come out with that? It was just so embarrassing.
I got to tell you, that was I did it last night, and one of the things is when he says, what are you going to do about what is your role going to be as a head coach? He says, I guess. His first thing is an I guess. I do it with my students, and I say, look, when you're in a job interview or you're being asked something, answer always in the affirmative. I will, I am, this is what I will do. I don't do the I hope, I wish, I think. Don't use those terms. He's using those terms. I mean, there was I have no confidence in what I saw yesterday. None.
Yeah, I struggle with this because you can see a totally different person behind a microphone than a guy that's coaching a team. But yesterday behind the microphone, he basically came out and said he's not even coaching the team. He's an overseer of things that happen. I'll step into this meeting maybe once in a while a little bit more. How do you admit that? How do you come out knowing
I don't understand it.
I don't know how much they prepared for this press conference. I don't know if they've just been working their balls off from the end of the season until yesterday and said, don't forget, you have that press conference at 2:30 today. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. But it's going to have to be later because we scheduled a meeting with Vic Fangio at 2:30. So let them know we're going to be a little bit late. So I don't know if they prepared for this or not. But you have to know that the feeling around the city is, okay, coach, what do you do around here? And you come out talking about that you're going to maybe step in a meeting once in a while on the defensive side, and we're going to hire somebody on the offensive side that is in complete control of the offense.
Connection.
I don't get it. And like I said, just looking at it yesterday, if you didn't tell me who they were, I would have swore that was your general manager and assistant general manager. Because that guy didn't say anything that made me think that he's a head coach of the football team.
He may have been the assistant to the assistant general manager, Pat.
Yeah, the Dwight Schrute. I mean, and I think Dwight Schrute's more equipped. Dwight Schrute was he was a guy who knew about his business and was very straightforward with his answers. But Nick Sirianni, the caller's right. Like, he's never been good at press conferences, so I don't expect him to all of a sudden be good. But it doesn't help when you're going into it with a bad taste in your mouth, and those are the answers you get. And it's like, what did you do for 8 days? Did you guys prep at all? Did you think about this? You had to know. You had to know that somebody might have asked, like, hey, what do you do here? It just seemed like Nick Sirianni's been stripped of basically all power, and they just went, look, we got a year, 2 years left on your deal. We're going to keep you around for good vibes, but yeah, let's get some competent people in here that know what they're doing, and maybe they can hold your hand.
Well, they care about optics, Pat, and that's one thing that we all didn't think.
I mean, in this
They
case, it
obviously
seems
care
like,
about optics.
but I don't know if they do.
Well, yesterday was really bad for optics.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if they do care about optics, because if they cared about optics, they would have spent 8 days in a master class of preparedness. I mean, like this happens all the time with like rich people when they get, called to court, right? They sit down with their lawyers, and their lawyers sit there and prepare them exactly what is going to be asked and what could be asked and how to handle themselves. And I mean, the Eagles are no different. Like, they have PR teams, and I'm sure they sat down with them, and they just, I don't know what the hell they were doing.
There's certain things about like your sports career that you'll never forget, whether it's something that happened or something that was said to you. And yesterday really rang true to me, something that was said to me as a player. I was a freshman in high school. We were playing horrible at halftime. The head coach looks at me and says, and Cooney, you have 3 fouls, but I got to keep playing because I don't have anybody else. But that's what it is. And I took it to like, oh my God, like what? Jeez.
I got nobody else.
I got nobody else. You have to play because I have nobody else. And you have 3 fouls. Basically, I hope you foul out because you suck so bad. That rang with me for the rest of my life. Did they go to Nick Sirianni and say, like, look, this is such a debacle. You're staying as head coach because we're keeping you there, but because you just were at the Super Bowl last year. But, and then was it 8 days of, like, buts? You what was this? What was that? What are you doing? Because you can't read into looks too much, but Nick Sirianni looked like a freshman Bob Cooney after being told, like, you have to play because we have nobody else. Yeah, that made me feel real good. He just didn't look the part at all.
No, he looked beat.
Forget sounding the part. Yeah, he looked, I think one writer described it as that he hadn't slept for days.
I have 2 good friends who are vice presidents with teams. One of them with the Chiefs, Ted Cruz. Knew him from the time he began his career. Ted Cruz still goes over with Andy Reid and has gone over stuff with him. They do classes in this for NFL coaches, for PR staffs and everything, to prepare them for this. That was disaster yesterday. I mean, that was a disaster yesterday when you think of, okay, how do teams prepare for this moment and what happens? But it's a bad reflection on Nick Sirianni because he looks like he's happy to be there. And I don't know if, and again, it's that optics thing. I believe they thought, well, if we fire a coach, it's going to be bad optics. And instead, what they're really dealing with is horrendous optics from yesterday. And people are like, well, what do you expect? Like, it's a press conference. What do you expect? That was terrible yesterday. I mean, that was absolutely atrocious. He doesn't have control. And more importantly, I wonder, Bob, how much does the front office have control? That's it. How much are they just the ones who are in control of this entire thing, and they're doing what they want to do, and they're just going to dictate it down. If it is Vic Fangio's coming in, we're hoping we'll talk to Adam Schefter coming up. If that's the guy who's coming in, I believe, again, this is one of those sort of toss the keys moments. Yep, here are the keys. Go run your defense.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, because Sirianni just said, oh, what am I going to go into a defensive meeting every once in a while? Maybe. What does that even mean? That baffles me.
Because he has the connection.
Yeah, what do you work on? Like knowing what your center's favorite group is, and when they come to town, you get them tickets?
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know. Like, I find it outlandish that a head coach of any organization, I don't care, baseball, football, whatever, that in the span of 40 minutes said that he might sit in a defensive meeting and they're going to hire somebody to take over the offense.
So, Pat, you will call me on it occasionally and say, or often, and say, John, you're reading too much into words.
Yeah.
I'm not with yesterday, am I?
Not today.
Okay.
No.
Okay, good. Because, I mean, by the way, I am known to do that.
It is bad. I mean, when you're, and the thing is, I'm worried. I don't know if they realize how bad it is.
I think today they do.
That the head coach is asked, all right, well, you're not calling the offense and you're not calling the defense. So what do you do here, right? Because the implication is the guy just has a lot of free time in a job that we know and everybody knows, every fan knows, the toll that it takes time-wise to be a head coach in the NFL. You get paid a lot of money because you're sacrificing a lot of your time. You don't have a 9 to 5. You're just 14, 15-hour days. So what are you doing? What do you spend your days doing? And he says once in a while.
Or I guess
Like it would have been so much better. And I'm not here to act like I haven't said stupid things and in the second guess myself later on and go, yeah, I should have said this and that. But in the moment, how do you not just with a lot of conviction say, these days I'll be here, this day I'll be here. I'm going to sit in this meeting and that meeting, and I'm going to like every once in a while, dude. Are you just hanging out? Like, are you just hanging out and getting free, hoodies and T-shirts? Because it certainly seems like it. It seems like you won a contest. You won a contest, and you're just kind of you're coach for a day.
Hey, Scott joins us on the Fanatic. Scott, what's going on?
Hey, fellas, it was horrible. I'm struggling with trying to figure out your three. So John's just amused by it all, and I'm trying to figure out who's more exhausted by it all between Pat and Bob. Like, it's so bad. It is so bad.
Yeah, I'm laughing because, Scott, I can't believe how bad it was.
I mean, at this point, all we can do is laugh. And the scary part is, I wonder if the players are laughing. Like, I don't know how the Eagles think the players feel, or how they, like, if I'm a player, I'm looking at it like this, I got to get out of here. This can't be serious. Nick has no direction. And, I take it differently than you guys do. I actually think it's a power move. I think Howie and Jeff don't want to hire a real coach because they want to be in control.
Oh, I don't think you're wrong, Scott. I don't think you're wrong.
And it's scary. Like, as far as Nick's concerned, like, you were comfortable with that. Like, at least Doug went there and they say, Doug, give us your coordinators, and Doug have a few that they didn't want. He left. He fell on his sword. Nick was cool, burying all his coordinators, burying all his assistants, and just sticking around to collect the paycheck.
Yeah, but him and Brian Johnson are really good friends, and he's really going to miss him, and it took like 3 minutes to explain that.
Bro, stop it. You just buried that man. You buried him. You buried both your coordinators. It was so bad. And, again, like I said, I think that it's a power struggle, and I think all it comes down to is how he lost control with Chip Kelly before. He'll be damaged to lose it again, and now from now on, Howie's the head coach. Nick Sirianni's his assistant.
There you go.
That's what it is.
So,
I'm sorry,
thanks, Scott. So the two biggest things that Nick Sirianni has really done as a head coach, in just outside looking in, is go 2-5 your first season and you give up play calling duties.
Yes,
had to praise him for it. After that, they went 7-2, and things turned around, and praise him for that. Okay, you saw you weren't good enough. Next year, he oversaw a 14-3 team that went to a Super Bowl. Have to praise him for that.
Got to praise him for that. Yeah.
He's head coach there. Then he goes into a season and he's 10-1, but he knows the team isn't playing all that well. Then it gets to 10-3, and he says, "I got to do something. I got to prove my worth. Sorry, Sean Desai, you're going to have to be the guy that I go with."
And he took the bullet for that yesterday. By the way,
he did, and said that he went to Howie and told him that was the move he wanted to make, and Howie said he supported him. So that's what they did. They take out Sean Desai and they put in Matt Patricia. So I guess he's 1-1 as far as moves that he's made as a head coach, but I would assume that record should be like up in the 40s and 50s. Like, there should be about 40 or 50 moves that we can put our thumb on that you made during 3 years of head coaching, but I don't know what they are. I just could not believe that you publicly came out and said, maybe I'll stop in defensive meetings once in a while now.
Maybe.
Maybe not. Now, saying that he's going to do it at once in a while, that's an upgrade.
Yes.
Obviously, he's saying, oh, maybe I'll stop in once in a while now. So that's more than you did. So I'm led to believe you never went up there? You never went to a defensive meeting? I'm shocked. Look, I don't look at press coverage. You know how I look at them
differently.
Yeah. I don't feed on everywhere. But I just couldn't believe that it was put out there as a whole. And there was so much left on the bone there. They're lucky they were only allowed 40 minutes because, reporters didn't even have a chance to get into play calling and things that happened on the field. Most of this was like off the field stuff. What do you do? Hirings, firings, all of these things. They didn't even give it a chance to saying, oh, yeah, well, you said the offense, we'll get into this later, is stale. Well, why didn't you run like that slant thing that seemed to work? Well, why didn't you use the running back more in the playoffs against a team that was almost dead last against the run? They couldn't even get into the on the field stuff because I think they were so amazed, like, oh my God, this guy's basically saying he does nothing.
Let's find out what Bob heard and a couple of the other answers and speak for yourself.
And now it's time for Bob Cooney's Speak for Yourself. Here's Bob.
We're going to need a few of these today, Bobby.
This is going to be a fun one today, that's for certain. So we'll look to have a little fun with it without boring you of what everybody said and didn't say, but there was a lot going on yesterday. And the first, we'll start off with Nick Sirianni, and he was asked right away about the firing of Brian Johnson.
We did what we thought was best at that time. We've had a lot of success here in the past 3 years. And Brian's contributed a lot to that. But like I said, it's now about bringing in fresh ideas, some different thoughts than what a lot of the guys, sometimes when you're with a group of guys, like we've been together for 3 years, that group of guys. But in addition to that, it was a couple of the other guys that I've been with for multiple years as well.
What?
Oh, my gosh.
What did you say there?
He didn't say anything.
If I'd asked that question, I would have raised my hand and said, sorry, I didn't understand your answer. You got rid of Brian Johnson. He was here with you for 3. Are you saying that the people that are here with you for 3 years, that it's stale? That you need new ideas? That's not good? I don't really understand what you're saying there, Nick. Can you further explain? Talk about mushmouth. And that was the first question of the day, right off the bat. All right, so we'll go over to Howie Roseman because, when things go bad, he's the one that has to look over at Nick and say, hey, Nick, I got this one. Don't you worry about it. So Howie Roseman was asked a question about, I have to find it here because I'm losing my space.
You got it.
Here we go. He was asked about the defensive line. Now, listen to this question. Howie Roseman was asked about the defensive line. Okay? That includes defensive tackles and defensive ends, right, John?
Yes, it
Listen
does.
to his answer.
I think maybe there's some preconceived notions that at the linebacker position, that we don't care who we play at linebacker. And again, our 2 Super Bowl teams over the last 6 years, the linebacker play was good from those guys. I have a lot of belief, and I know Coach does as well, in Nakobe Dean. I believe in the player. I believe in the person. We lost 2 linebackers at that spot, 2 good players from our Super Bowl team. And we had Nakobe wait in the wings. We drafted him for that role. Obviously, it didn't work out perfectly for him this year. That doesn't change the belief we have in the player.
So the way the defense works, Howie, so you have 2 defensive ends on the outside. You have defensive linemen on the inside if you go to a 4-man front. The people behind them, those are the linebackers. The question was about the 4 people I just described up front, and he went to Nakobe Dean and linebacker. Let alone talking about they're going to plug Nakobe Dean in there again next year.
Again, that's the plan?
They have total confidence in him. Total confidence in him. Now, look, does the kid need a chance?
Sure.
I guess, but can you give him that chance before you anoint him? Can't you come out and just say, look, didn't really see it from Nakobe this year, injuries, whatever it was. We got to take a good long look at him and make sure he's the right guy. But this anointing, didn't you learn? Haven't you learned? Let alone, you didn't even answer the question.
By the way, Howie, it's 2 and 7 years. It's not 2 and 6 years. He wanted the math to be a little bit better in his favor. It's 2 and 7 years.
Well, they haven't played this Super Bowl yet, I guess, so he's not including this year.
Yeah, but we know he's not going to it.
So, let alone this anointing of Nakobe Dean, it seems. But, my God, are you not taking a look at people? Like, that's just my first answer off my head. Look, Nakobe this year didn't get a chance to really look at him, was hurt too much. When he was in there, what did you think of him? What kind of job did he do? But to say, we still like Nakobe. Yep, he's it. He's the guy.
What do you think of what you heard? Bob will have a few more of these in the course of the day today to carry us through in a Speak for Yourself as we try to figure out what was actually said yesterday.
I just can't believe on the first question of the day,
he blew it.
Nick Sirianni comes out and goes, really? Took you 8 days to come up with that, huh?
That was pretty good.
I just...
How long did it take you to come up with that? That was pretty good.
I've said this before, and I do believe it. People are made to be head coaches and all that because you can just see the wheels are always turning, always spinning, all of that. I've been surrounded by a lot of great coaches in my life, and they're guys those are guys or ladies that never get caught off guard. Never. Like it's a question about something about this, ready for it. What was that? I don't see much thinking on my feet right there.
You want to get in with us, 610-632-0975. I have never seen a moment like this that happened yesterday, and I think people may have missed it. It's the John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic.
Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Adam Schefter at 8. Game time at 8:30. We got Pat's takes coming up in the next hour, too. Preempted from yesterday. We appreciate you being a part of the show this morning and everybody who is downloading that 97.5 The Fanatic app and listening all day long. Our YouTube audience, we appreciate you, as always. And obviously, it's a day where we're reacting to what the Eagles thought was going to be an end of the season. Well, here are your answers. And honestly, I think it created more questions. I never, ever heard something that I heard yesterday, Bob, and you've been to a million press conferences, where at one point, Nick Sirianni was drowning. The questions were just coming to him, and he was not doing well. And Howie Roseman, when somebody started to ask Nick a question, said, well, direct one at me. Direct one at me. He literally had to throw his coach a life vest off the side of the boat to say, no, direct the question at me. I've never, ever heard that in all the time covering sports, where it's like, yeah. Okay, this guy is dying out there, so I'm going to tell the press, you now ask a question of me. Never seen that ever before in my life.
Yeah, Sirianni was asked about, does he have to reprove himself? Zach Berman is like,
Sure.
What's your vision and all of that? And he goes into this long soliloquy of, you asked me that. I think I have to reprove myself. I was a young coach when they hired me. I don't know if 3 years later you're old or a veteran now. But,
Yes.
We've got to prove it again. And then all of a sudden Howie gives it can I just say something here, please? Because I think it's important. And he goes back to a previous question.
Yes.
That was brought up by Tim McManus. So
He didn't like the answer. Like, he didn't like what he was talking about, or he was, like, rambling.
you could see him sinking with the boat, being Nick Sirianni with the question, and Howie saying, all right, here, come here, hold this. Let me help you out of it.
And it was not even in regards to the answer, as you point out. Like, what was being asked of him.
No, he went on a different tangent of something that was brought up earlier by Tim McManus.
Deflect, control. There's a lot of that going on. It was a bad day. That was a bad day. I can't wait to hear when Adam Schefter joins us a little bit later on to hear what he has to say about the reaction to that. And two, we sort of buried one of the leads today early on because we want to get to that. Vic Fangio, and it appears he is going to be the guy. We're just waiting for the official word on that. But to me, you've gone with disciples, and I believe that there are 6 disciples currently calling defenses, following that Fangio system. Better to get Jesus than one of the apostles. If he's the guy, if you're looking for somebody to fix it,
that, man. I mean, Thomas had some stuff going on for him.
Yeah, but he doubted, Pat. I don't want a doubter in here.
I'd have some questions.
Peter, we know, lied when he was under pressure. Peter lied.
It happens to the best of us.
I would rather, to me, go and I would rather have the guy come in here. Look, at this point, you're trying to salvage something. I'll take Vic Fangio any day of the week.
Yeah, but does it not make you say, like, oh, my God, they're just dialing it back again? They are. Okay, yeah, you're getting the leader of a bunch of guys that under him preach the same philosophy, the bend, don't break. Okay, now you got the leader of the bend, don't break. Is that good enough for you? I don't know. Vic
so it
Fangio
doesn't really move the needle for you much, Pat.
No,
Pat
my
either.
needle kind of just stayed where it was when I heard this Vic Fangio thing.
Same thing as Bob. Like, and it doesn't help the fact that Miami's defense wasn't great.
Well, they
were like 21st, 22nd.
Up. I mean, they were.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I can't pretend that when I saw the Fangio news, I got excited, and that's a far cry from probably where I would have been a year ago. If I found out that Jonathan Gannon at this point had accepted a head coaching position and he'd coach out through the end of the playoffs and they were going to replace him with Vic Fangio, I probably would have been okay with it. But after what I saw from Desai and then, Fangio and Miami, I don't know. I need another philosophy, I guess.
They were so beaten up, Miami's defense. They were so beaten up, had so many veterans out. And all I remember is how much they made my Christmas Eve. I know this. The Eagles have not had a plan for Dallas's offense that looked anything like that what they managed to pull off in that game on Christmas Eve. They were prepared for Dallas and did some nice things. If there's anything, I like with a beaten up defense, I think they held Dallas to 20. It was either 20 or 19.
Yeah, but
I have not seen anybody doing that.
I said before, like, people that are clamoring for, you got to get that guy that comes in here and blitzes and all that. If you don't have the talent to do it, you can't just say you're going to run a scheme. I want a teacher to come here. I want somebody to come in that concentrates on tackling, somebody that, does play a physical style of defense, does teach the talent that you have what is best suited for them. Now, maybe they're smarter than me and saying, look at the talent we have. That just lends to playing a bend, don't break defense. This is a shell coverage league anymore. It's what everybody does. It's how you have to play defense now in the NFL because the rules don't allow you to play the aggressive type of defense that you want to play. Okay, if they're steps ahead of my thinking on that, and I'm sure they are, well then, okay, maybe you are making the exact right hire in hiring the disciple of bend, don't break.
Yeah, get on in 610-632-0975 if you want to join us on this one. It was that's a pretty incredible day. I want to touch on one other story that we have passed over yesterday. I think the Flyers have done a really, really good job of handling this story so far of the Carter Hart story, as far as just coming right out and being like, look, we're not going to talk about it. We're hitting it up front. There are other organizations that have been a little more clandestine that are dealing with it. It's Devils, Calgary, or is it just Devils, Calgary, and the Flyers, Pat, that have got players on leave right now?
I think there's one more.
There's Devils have 2, Calgary has 1.
And that's it. Yeah, that's it.
So it is. So that's the as far as players out on leave right now. There's something about when Danny Briere has a very matter-of-fact way of addressing things. But this organization, man, this is tough to deal with right now. This is a tough story to deal with.
Yeah.
And the story is getting worse.
It's funny. I agree with you that they handled it the right way. I won't praise, good for the Flyers. I give them that's the way you had to handle it. I get what amazes me more when organizations don't handle things the right way.
Yes.
I said it with the Sixers when I was covering them and they wouldn't tell you about injuries and all. Just come out and just say it. This is a very difficult situation. You have a player that may be being accused of something serious that you can't talk about because it is being handled by the NHL and by the authorities in London, Ontario. Okay, you can come out and say that. That's okay. And the Flyers did just that. And that is the perfect way. Sometimes the most obvious thing is the perfect way to handle it. Come out and be honest. Look, we can't talk about it further. It's in the hands of the London, Ontario police and the NHL. We all know what you know, and we just cannot speak of it, so please respect that at this time. That's it. Boom. Done.
Doesn't look good. The story doesn't look good, but again, when details emerge, we will then have commentary on it. But until then, it's reckless to just assume, but things are looking very, very dark on this story.
It's getting close to not being reckless.
Right.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. It doesn't appear to be a coincidence and all of that. And you do have to wonder, look, if this is true, I'll say that. If this is true, that's why he had to take this leave and he is one of those people, you have to wonder about, is there any future at all here in Philadelphia or maybe anywhere for Carter Hart?
Or anywhere.
I'm just going to say it. That's the honest truth. That's just being honest. If he is part of this, and if the two are related, that he took a leave of absence and he might be one of the accused, if he is one of the accused, yeah, you may have seen Carter Hart play his last game for the Flyers.
Yeah, I mean, and that's tough, Pat. I know that's something you'd talk about, is that this is a difficult story to even try to navigate.
It is. I mean, it's allegations, and the Ontario police aren't discussing it for another month.
Sure.
They said they expect to talk about it and discuss it on February 5th. But it's allegations at this point, so you don't want to jump into it. But Bob's right. It's getting to the point where These guys aren't taking leave of absences because their dog is sick. There's clearly a connection here. They were all on that World Junior team. They all take a leave of absence for the exact same reason on the day where, the Ontario police wants people to turn themselves in. Yeah, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure this one out. I think if he's found guilty, I don't.
Well,
if charges are pressed and he's found guilty, you're not ever going to play.
Well, he's not going to be. He would be in prison.
Yeah, well,
for one thing.
Yeah, okay, but but even with the allegations and I don't know if you come back from this in Philly. I remember years ago, and I'm talking like 20-something years ago, they brought in Billy Tibbetts, and the fan base
went nuts.
Wasn't having it because it was a similar situation with Billy Tibbetts. Different players. Billy Tibbetts wasn't even close to the talent level that Carter Hart is, but I don't know if the fan base just welcomes him back. If after this black cloud is going to hang over him.
And the bad part of it, though, Pat, is even being the suspicion or being the accused. It's a stain. It's a stain on it. At some point, some things were done wrong that night. Whether there was criminal negligence or guilt is a whole nother issue.
Something
that'll
happened.
Be determined. Yes,
that should not have happened.
Right.
That's pretty
Correct.
clear.
We know that part of it, and you don't have to speculate to do that. It's a matter of
it's the Matt Araiza situation in a lot of ways.
Yes.
It's like.
Well, he got his life. He got his life destroyed.
But that's the thing, right? He got his life destroyed and he got acquitted and all that. But there's, I'm sure, a large amount of people that will always look at him with a skewed eye. And with Carter Hart, it's probably very similar. With all five of these guys, it's probably very similar. If they were guilty, they deserve everything they get. That's horrible. But it's a difficult situation for sure.
Yeah.
And it's. In a lot of ways, I feel bad for Briere and Keith Jones because they inherit this mess. And you think about, and that's my point. You think about the first 4 or 5 months of their tenure, and they've had to deal with this crap. Not easy to navigate, and they handled it well. But as to Bob said, they handled it well. That's how you're supposed to handle it. And this is coming off of what we heard yesterday from NovaCare. So it makes Danny Briere's statement look even more competent.
I had to cover a story for many weeks similar to this one in the sporting world here in Philadelphia. And, it's tough. It's tough to cover because of just what you said. People would get, why are you always writing negative things about? And I would just come back with, look, I'm not looking to. Nothing good happened that night.
No, nothing good.
You can say guilt, not guilty, how were they involved, whatever. Let's not forget, nothing good happened that night, especially to that poor lady. And you have to remember that and move forward. It's going to be, you know what, Pat, you bring it up, and not to downplay this occurrence at all. But Danny Briere and Keith Jones come in, they draft they inherit a high draft pick who then comes out and says he doesn't want to play here. Then this come and happen. And two things that in the hockey world you rarely see, they've had happen to them in their first 5 months in their tenure.
Is it okay to consider that maybe part of the reason that Gauthier wouldn't want to be here is because of understanding the junior culture and understanding more about the story than any of us know?
No, I don't think one has to do with the other. I'm just saying.
He's
Team USA. That was Team Canada. It was
right
before his time. No, I don't think it has anything. I think Cutter Gauthier wanted to turn pro, and the Flyers said, let's hold off on that. And he got all upset, and his feelings got hurt, and he said, okay, I'm going to pat my ball and go home.
Well, Bobby, is I don't like duck. It's too gamey for me. I don't like duck. I will not eat duck.
I've had it a few times. I know one time in Toronto, a place that we used to go, Soto. I got duck there. Duck? Oh, my God, delicious. It was the place to go to in Toronto.
It's run by a guy named Juan.
Yeah. And I took a chance, and it was delicious. Yeah. But I understand a lot of people say what you're saying also.
A little too gamey for me. But what about the lame duck? Would you order the lame duck? Or would you try to pass on that?
I have it right here in Nick Sirianni. Did after yesterday, how do you describe, honest question here, not to harp on words or anything for this venture right now. How do you view him? And I'm putting this out there to listeners too, if you want to, chime in or whatever. And I want to hear what you and Pat have to say, John. How do you view him now in this organization? Did you come away from yesterday just saying, okay, yeah, he's still the head coach. I can't wait to see what kind of coordinators they have. Or did it kind of shock you that, oh, my God, he's the head coach? Like, where did it, as far as Nick Sirianni goes, for the future of this organization, where did it leave you?
It clarified for me that he is a non-factor as far as strategy. And to me, it did something to me that I didn't think it would do. I felt sorry for him.
Wow. That's an interesting take.
I felt sorry for him yesterday being up there on that dais, and I don't think that I think he looked so uncomfortable. He looked so neutered, and I think even in coaching circles, people understand that he's just up there. He's just being propped up.
Okay, so
and I felt bad for him because he's not going to walk away from a $7 million paycheck. People are like, "Oh, I would just quit." Bull crap that you would. He's due $14 million on his contract. You would not walk out on $14 million. You say you would. You never would. Nobody would. So he has
probably not working out on $14 at this point.
He has to be fired. He has to be fired in order to get that $14 million. So no, I hear these people going, "Oh, I would have walked out if I was Nick Sirianni. I wouldn't stand for this." Bull crap. You're not walking out on $14 million. That's ridiculous. So
yeah, I thought people would come at you in a different way and say, "Why do you feel sorry for him? He has $14 million coming to him, and he's not doing anything."
Yeah, I just look. I felt bad because I don't think the man is a buffoon, but I think that he has a really. I think he's again over his head. He's over his head. He's just not, and he showed that yesterday.
Pat, what about you? You come away from that press conference. We all have our preconceived notions of Nick Sirianni, probably. He's been here 3 full seasons now. But you come away from that press conference just watching it yesterday. Did your thoughts of him were what?
He's a waste of $14 million. He is very replaceable. And I have nothing against the guy.
No, he's not a bad man.
I could find some, guy on Instagram that gives really good speeches to replace him for a fraction of the cost.
Mike from Delran.
Yeah, I could have Mike. If you're going to just do rah-rah speeches, there's a lot of people that can do that.
I think Mike from Delran would work for less than $7 million.
And the troubling thing is, I've been questioning for a while now, what is it he does here?
You started saying it.
I feel like I was probably one of the first people in the city to start going like, what is it you do here?
No, you did.
And when you finally get that question posed, you actually want answers that could go, okay, that makes sense. I can understand that. And to just hear him go, yeah, I'm the head coach. And then when he's asked to expound on it, he doesn't give that much of an answer. It's like, all right, no, like what? Honestly, is that all you do? Because if that's all you do, we can get somebody else in here.
Because I think it's the biggest question for me that came out of that press conference yesterday.
No question.
I want to ask fans, listeners, everybody, how do you feel now about the head coach? And then I started thinking a little bit deeper. Does Howie and Jeffrey Lurie go back into their offices and go, "Oh man, what have we done here?" Or are they happy with it? Because if they are, what kind of organization is being run here? And I go back to what I said.
How could they be happy with that?
I go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. We know they don't put prominence on linebackers. We know they don't put prominence on running backs. They don't pay either one of them. And it doesn't seem they put prominence on safeties.
Or head coach.
Are they the same way with their head coach?
But they're probably sitting there today going, yeah, they said the same stuff about his introductory press conference, and then they were singing a different tune a couple years later, and they're right.
And they are right about that.
The difference is the introductory press conference, we weren't sitting there going, okay, what exactly do you do as the head coach? At that point, we're like, okay, well, he's an offensive-minded head coach. He had a bad press conference, but he'll handle the offense, and he'll have his fingerprints all over it and all that. Well, now at this point, we've seen that anytime he has his fingerprints on the offense sucks. So, and then it's like, well, you've obviously got that stripped away from you because we heard that. The new OC will handle the offense, and you don't have an answer for exactly what it is you do every day. If you ask me what I do every day, I can give you a detailed description of I come in at this point, I do this, I do that, I do that. I can give you an example of exactly what my day is. He couldn't do that. He gave you an example of what his every 2 weeks might be.
So as a child to a parent, as a worker to a boss, I've always felt that you're always doing something to have them say to you, good job. Good job. You did good there. Proud of you. Whether it was something at home, obviously at the workplace, you always, every time you see your boss, want them to say, hey, good job. You did good on it. Do you think, Howie, and the answer can't be an obvious no. I'm wondering what their thinking is and how they coached him. Do you think they got done there, walked back into Jeffrey Lurie's office, and he went, "Good job, guys, way to go"?
No.
If they did,
that's terrible. It's terrible. They were being mocked on ESPN radio nationally about that press conference. My man Freddie Coleman yesterday and Harry Douglas just being like, "Whoa."
I hope for their sake, Lurie was in Turks and Caicos.
Well, exactly.
I hope.
Yeah, Joe is on the line. Joe, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Hey, good morning, fellas.
Hey, Joe.
All right. You know what, man? It sounded more like he was some type of quality control offense, like whatever Matt Patricia was before he was the defensive coordinator. That's what it sounded.
That's
like.
That's not a bad analogy. Yeah.
It seemed like he had more philosophy. And I'm thinking if they're going to hire an offensive coordinator, they really better hire somebody with some experience, somebody who's been in the league. I just can't see them going in, picking anonymous names out, Coyote or whoever, these names out the air. Since they're going, all in Fangio in the defense, I think they're going to go with names. And the thing that hurt me the most is when he said that he was only going to go, maybe go into the defensive meetings every now and I'm like, you the head coach, like every now and then. That really took me apart.
Yeah, but his fob may not open the door, Joe. I appreciate you. His fob may not open the door to the defensive coaching room. Maybe Vic Fangio will have the locks changed. So, hey, Nick, you tell me when you want to come visit. We'll open the door for you. Hey, get on in with us, 610-632-0975. There was lots more from yesterday, and Bob will have more speak for yourself on it, too. Plus, your reaction. How are you feeling today about your head coach because he told you what he does and doesn't do? Does that give you confidence? John Kincade Show, 97.5, The Fanatic. We love our friend David Kelleher. He is
Fanatic and 97.5 thefanatic.com.
John Kincade Show hanging out with you, 7 o'clock hour, brought to you by the all-new BetParx app. Why do I say all-new? Because it's always changing. They've always got, the BetParx app's always got something cool going on. You will love it. You got to be in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Ohio, or Maryland. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So we all fall in the same. I was wondering today how this was going to go, because I do, and Pat is exactly right, and Bob will question me on it too, that at times too much attention paid to a press conference or what words are being said. But yesterday was a totally different kind of day. It was absolutely worthy of any kind of analysis of the words that were said and how it was said. And to me, it just shows that I don't know what the head coach does here. And it's not an organization that is conducting itself like others around the NFL. And again, there's no comparison between what Nick Sirianni described his role as and anything else that we're seeing in the NFL right now.
No, I got a text from a friend that I think sums it up perfectly, John.
Okay.
And my friend Mike Biazzo sends me, he goes, did you really think they were going to say anything yesterday? All they do is deflect. And I said, no, not really. But I also didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Exactly. There's a difference.
Yeah. So, and he was like, yeah, you're right. You know, that was, he sasaid, I had to turn it off. They were so bad. So, look, press conferences, breaking it down. We know, we hear you. But it's where you are right now. You're at a spot where this is the most followed sports team in this city. They are the biggest story all the time. They had a monumental collapse that can't be compared to many others in all of sports. So now they need to tell us why. Sorry, if you don't want to hear it, then maybe you don't want this team to do better.
Or you're saying no, don't want to hear it. No. I mean,
because you're sick
trying
of it.
to ignore it. No, you're trying to ignore it. You're like, okay, it can't be as bad. Look, we all are as invested in Sunday afternoons in the fall. Every single one of us. We're all invested in our own way and our own passions and everything. But if you're acting like, yeah, this isn't that odd, this isn't that strange, you've never, ever then attended a press conference or understood what a guy does when he's behind a microphone as a head coach. I've never seen anything like that yesterday.
Yeah.
That was atrocious.
I put it this way. There's many people out there that have bought houses. Call it brand new houses. They're interested in what kind of house, what's it look like, look at the rooms. But then when it comes to picking out the paint and carpeting, you kind of take I'll let you do that, hon, or whoever your partner is, I'll let you do that because you don't have that much of an interest in it. I compare press conferences the same way. You want to see what's on the field, the product, the wins. You want to see all that. How they go about it, I'm not really interested in all that. Well, that's our jobs, and that's their job to explain to us, the fans, the followers, about how you do it. How do you do it, and why didn't it succeed? And they failed miserably yesterday.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. I don't understand why anybody's trying to make, there's nothing to see here. Why is this a big deal? I seriously, I do not understand what you don't get about this.
Well, it goes back to like the paint and the carpet, right? You're not interested in this, but it's a big part of your presentation. It's a big part of if you're a good football team or not. It's a big part of whether your house looks really good with that carpeting and paint. Like that, this is part of it. It's all part of it, and that's why we're talking about it. And it was horrible.
Hey, Ryan joins us on The Fanatic. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good, buddy.
Excuse me. I'm not an advocate for Sirianni. Disappointed that he came back. The only thing that other than he got exposed for not being the captain of the ship and not being able to.
He's Gilligan at this point. I mean, let's be honest.
Pretty much. I mean, your job is if you're got issues with your sales, you're the captain. You should know how to fix your sales. One of the only things I could think of is I think we have too many cooks in the kitchen, and it was a new offensive coordinator. Nick tried to do more maybe than he. Again, not an advocate, not making excuses. It's his ship. I think there were way too many hands in the cookie jar and too many cooks in the kitchen.
Well,
think that was a factor.
He took responsibility, and I was shocked. because I did not believe it. He took responsibility for the Desai being demoted.
Yeah.
And
he said he went to Howie.
And he went to Howie, and that's how that went. I don't believe he would get up there and tell a lie and be like, okay, this is the story you're going to tell. I do believe Nick Sirianni would say, bull crap.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
not
Well, if
doing
you're going to
that."
come out publicly with that, Sean Desai can speak also.
Right.
I mean, he can come out at some point and
That
say,
was
yeah,
false.
that's not how it happened. But, I believe him. I think – but the overriding decision, although Howie said he came to us, I support him. But they have to go to Jeffrey Lurie and say, is this okay?
Oh, yeah,
We're going to do this. And the final okay is given that way. What he was just saying, though, about too many cooks in the kitchen, well, if your head chef can't cook, you probably need more sous chefs.
Oh, yeah. I admire.
You don't cook a lot.
I know.
So if I say, John, you're going to go prepare a meal for 15 people, have at it. Like, I'm not just going to give you one person because you know what you're doing.
No.
You're not Gordon Ramsay. I'm going to have to give you 3 or 4 people because they're going to have 4 or 5 dishes. I'll put you in charge of this, you in charge of that. So I guess you need too many cooks in the kitchen if Nick Sirianni's your head coach.
And I don't understand how how you time everything with the oven. If you have one oven, how do you time everything with the oven? So
It's a gift, John.
I would never.
You know how you equal it all out? Your meat always has to rest.
Okay.
Okay? So that's how you equal it out. Like if you say, oh, man, my meat's going to be done here, but I didn't get started on that there. It's okay. You let your meat rest, and if some things are like 15 or 20 minutes aren't going to be done until after that, then you look like a genius, and you say, yeah, I had to let the juices coagulate. Therefore, I let the meat rest for 15 to 20 minutes.
I hear Pat with a YouTube joke just right in the chamber.
He knows what I'm talking about.
He's got.
Keep talking, Bob. He talks slow.
I do work with 2 guys who don't cook a little bit.
No, not really good at it. Hey, Mark joins us on The Fanatic. Mark, good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. How are you?
Great to have you on, buddy.
Hey, I got a question for you. Do you guys, does your opinion change at all for Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie? Because from what I saw from this press conference and from what I've experienced through the last 2 coaches, it feels like a Jerry Krause situation where like he's trying to micromanage and trying to have his hands in what's going on the field a little bit too much.
That's not a bad analogy. By the way, I hated what as far as having too much to do, I hated what Jordan did to Krause. And then the fans in Chicago booing,
that was
booing
horrible.
his widow. That was
Yeah.
That was disgusting.
Yeah. That was the question, kind of what Mark just said. That was the question that I kind of put out there to everybody. How did you feel? How do you feel not only about Nick Sirianni? How do you feel that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman feel about Nick Sirianni? What kind of job titlement does he have? Are they okay with it? His description of what he does, is that not surprising to them? I would love to know what you think. Like, where do you stand as far as, are you okay with an overseer? Yeah, he was part of it that took you to a Super Bowl last year. But it became pretty clear yesterday that there's not much else going on there.
And now that you know, do you think that he had a lot of that he was the strategist that got them to the Super Bowl?
Doesn't appear.
No. It was Shane Steichen. It was Jonathan Gannon. And it's been exposed. And it's shown. It was exposed in the performance of the team this year, and it was exposed in the messaging right there. I mean, if he was, I just had a guy like Fangio coming in, and Pat, I know you have your reservations, but he's a large and in charge guy, and he's also been a head coach, so he could help Nick out, maybe to up that part of his game a little bit.
Okay, but even what you just said there, think about that. We've had a coach here for 3 seasons. And we need him to up his game. Like, we need him to have a veteran coordinator hold his hand and show him how to do it. Isn't the whole point of the NFL is, like, you hire a guy because you have the faith that he can do it right then and there? He's not an assistant. He's not an analyst. He's not we're treating Nick Sirianni, he's a grad assistant at a small-time school. Like, where he needs to, I can learn on the job. I don't need a head coach to learn on the job. Vic Fangio is everything I'd want in a DC. He's a former head coach. He is a veteran. he's probably not getting another head coaching job in the NFL.
Absolutely.
He also wants to stay local. One of the reasons why him and Miami mutually agreed to part ways is like he wanted to get back to his family in Pennsylvania. He's everything you'd want. He doesn't move my needle necessarily, but if I had a list of qualities I'd look for in a DC, he's it. All right? Now, look, my problem is just the needle moving thing, but that's fine. What the hell do I know? The idea, though, that you're bringing him in to hold Nick Sirianni's hand and show him the ropes, I must have missed when Vic Fangio won a Super Bowl as a head coach. I must have missed that Super Bowl. Maybe I took it off because, like, that's absurd to me. But that's what we have here. We have a guy that either needs to get his hand held or literally is coming in the building and just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, it's Steve in Conchi sends along a note, and he says that when Vic was the coach in Denver, they caused problems for Dallas, too, with his style. And one of the things, too, and it was pointed out in an ESPN piece, and one of the stories I was reading about Miami and what went down the stretch, is unlike people that are disciples of his, he believes in playing tighter man with his quarterbacks. Good. But he also, though, he still is going to play. He's going to still play those same principles. But he likes a tighter coverage with his quarterbacks, which should please Darius Slay, absolutely, and probably plays more to right now if there is a chance to bounce back, a chance that maybe for James Bradbury that things could be better.
If they're good at that, I don't know.
Well, Slay's pretty good at it. I mean, I think Slay's pretty good at
press coverage. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen it since he's been here, really, because nobody's ever asked them to do that. It is interesting the way you bring it up, though. You bring in a Vic Fangio, and we're talking about the assistant holding the hand of the coach, like Pat said. Vic he's not giving keys to Nick Sirianni, I wouldn't believe. Vic Fangio heard him say yesterday, maybe I'll stop up at a defensive meeting once in a while. If I'm Vic Fangio and I come in, no, we're good.
We're good.
We're good. You don't have to. The division between coordinators and head coach seems to be pretty big.
Well, that was I can tell you the first call, Sean McVay got his head coaching job. Youngest coach since John Gruden or whatever it was. And the first call he made was to Wade Phillips to be his DC. I want a guy who's been a head coach. I want a guy who's a big-time veteran coordinator. And he talked about the fact how much Wade Phillips taught him some of the ropes.
Yeah.
Sean, don't do that. Sean, stay away from that. Don't take on that obligation, whatever it is. And so maybe this is a guy that Nick Sirianni has needed all along. And we see a different Nick Sirianni emerge because of it. I don't know. I'm trying to give him the benefit of
How can you tell a guy? Yeah, I hear you. But from what they said yesterday, if Vic Fangio comes in here, what is he telling Nick Sirianni not to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do this. Don't do that. Do this. When he doesn't even go to your meetings. So what are you telling him to and not to do? I don't know. Legitimate questions. If, I don't go to defensive meetings. Do you want me to stop up there once in a while? You media group? Okay. If it appeases you, I'll stop up there once in a while.
Well, this is why I didn't care at all about hearing Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox and them on microphones saying what kind of a great guy he was. This is what, look, nobody is questioning that Nick Sirianni's a great guy. I know a lot. I know people who have had very frequent personal interactions with him that think the world of him. That's awesome. I need a football coach.
I'm sure he's, yeah.
I need a football coach.
I'm sure he's great.
He's a great guy, I'm sure.
We all have encountered people in our industries and it doesn't matter what industry you work in, where you just sit back and you go like, what's your purpose here right now? Because you're kind of just wasting money. What is it you do? You're really good at making it look like you're working, but you're not really working. And you tell me you work, but
what is it?
I don't really see it. When Nick Sirianni has basically been exposed as that, I feel like, and he hasn't mastered the George Costanza, I'm going to look really, really frustrated, and people will believe that I'm working hard. Now, George didn't have a media contingent that included a Tim McManus grilling him.
Now, Nick's always got the. Do you think he has this place to sneak under his desk?
I think absolutely. I mean, what else would you do if you're not stopping into meetings other than once every couple weeks? Yeah, I mean, you're going to go out, you're going to watch practice. You're not going to conduct practice. You're going to watch it, and then after that, it's like, all right, let's get a nap in. Honest to God, during the meetings, right? Like during when the offense is meeting and the defense is meeting,
nap time.
If he's not meeting, I'm probably catching a nap. Like, what else would you be doing?
Get him a big mat. He could just lay on the floor behind the desk.
He's going to stop in every once in a while, but when he's not stopping in every once in a while and they're conducting meetings, I mean, is that Netflix time?
I mean,
are we catching up on some shows?
Well, after the process, Sam Hinkie was gone and all that, I was in an airport, and somebody in the know, we were on the same flight, had so much to tell me about what had gone on off the record and stuff like that. I thought of this yesterday. There were times where they would go days that Sam Hinkie's door would be closed, and the people directly underneath of him didn't know if he was in his office or not.
What?
Didn't know for
He didn't go
days.
to the bathroom?
They didn't know.
Really?
Oh, he probably had an office that had a bathroom in it.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But like, they did not know. And I'm not exaggerating this. Like, that was just the way Sam Hinkie did things. And good or bad, the way he did it, I'm not here to say. It gave us what we have now as far as the Sixers go. But I do. Pat, I thought of that. So funny you bring that up. I thought of that yesterday. Well, if you're not going up to defensive meetings and you're trusting your offensive guy to kind of run things, is the door closed and people know if you're there or not?
Private bathroom, though, is a good deal. If you're
Yeah, well, you make that kind of money, you're probably getting your own bathroom. You're not like sharing it with, like me and Pat peeing next to each other after the show.
Yeah,
That's how we bond. I thought at
we
least
talk,
until
we carry on conversation.
Absolutely.
By the way, though, you saw the memo. You're supposed to use different stalls. You saw the memo.
They can send as many memos as they want, and I'll continue to delete them.
Yeah, me and Pat go together.
Yeah, we've had this going
Peanut
for
butter
a
and
while.
jelly.
There you go. So it's your grandfathered in.
We better be.
All right. Well, let's find out. Pat,
I am his grandfather.
Pat, I'm going to call something right now. There is a story that happened in the world that if it's not in Pat's takes, I never know what's coming. But I got to tell you, I certainly hope you found this story that I'm thinking of.
With or without, either way, it's time for Pat's takes.
It's not in. It's not.
It's
in there.
not in.
It's not in. No.
How do you know?
I'd be blown away if you're talking it up like it's a really exciting story.
It's a stupid story, but it's
yeah, I don't think it probably is in here, but
we'll find out.
Anyway, college sports, big business, right?
Yes.
If you win, your school is cashing in, but if your team loses, then the sports team can become a money pit, costing the university millions. So winning has become paramount to the bottom line of a school, but with NIL, it's become kind of a murky situation. Thanks to NIL, schools have treated recruits like stocks. They buy up the best thanks to big-time NIL funds. And college teams have seen recruits switch schools, not because of a coaching change or because they had a change of heart or that school wins. No. It's simply because Ben Franklin was talking a big game. And this recently happened to powerhouse Alabama. Now, Alabama had a commit from five-star quarterback Julian Sayin, and Sayin was poised to go to Tuscaloosa. That is until Ryan Day and Ohio State's never-ending supply of NIL got involved. They threw a ton of money at Sayin, and suddenly Sayin was sporting a different red, white, and silver. He flipped his commit, and Alabama fans are not handling it well. It's kind of like Eagles fans with the press conference. But some want to yell, and then others want to find a solution. And on one message board, a contributor with the name Saban Country proposed a bold strategy in the Bible Belt. He said, stop donating to churches and start donating to NIL. Quote,
really?
Stop donating to your churches until we dig ourselves out of this.
Really?
We are in a crisis, and your church will be fine. If it's not, you can find another. Football is a religion in Alabama, and it's time to prove it. Yes, Alabama fans think that what they're going through right now is a crisis.
It's a religious persecution.
It is a crisis. This is like Boston fans going like 2 years without a championship going, we're in a crisis. So there you go. You can pray that a recruit can change his mind, or you can simply put your money where your mouth is and be a part of the solution. Hey,
the solution.
Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't call this a crisis necessarily, but I guess when you lose, I've never been in a situation where Temple's lost a five-star quarterback. They did lose Kenny Pickett to Pitt, but
yeah, they did.
But it wasn't a five-star quarterback situation. But yeah, the NIL situation has become a little bit of a problem, and it's also hitting some of the big-time schools like Alabama.
Oof, that's terrible. It's a religious crisis for them.
All right, Bobby, I want you to cover yours. This one's gonna hurt.
They're already covered, Pat.
Thank you. And I know you don't listen, so that makes it even better. As a media member, we demand answers. But we don't demand answers because we want them. We demand answers for you, the fans. The
That's
guy
what it
listening in
is.
his car who just needs to know from Joel Embiid how it felt to score 70 points. Yes, sports media members are often doing the Lord's work. That's what we do. We're doing the Lord's work out there as a media member. But what happens when teams don't feel like talking to us? Well, normally we just head to Twitter and we cry and whine and we put our players and teams, PR team on blast. That's what normally happens. And normally that backfires with those ungrateful fans not realizing how important we media are. But even the grumpy media members who act like they're reporting from the Gaza Strip have to admit that they simply don't have that dog in them, that they're just built different, but not in a good way. Because while American media will just bitch and moan on Twitter, African media members are about that action. Because recently we had a heavyweight soccer match between Ghana and Mozambique in Afghan action. And for those unaware, Afghan is Africa's version of CONCACAF. So it's, other countries battling other countries in Africa. And Ghana was a minus 200 favorite in the match, but they let in a late goal. The match ended in a draw. It cooked any chance of Ghana advancing into the tournament. They were heavy favorites. And after losing to a soccer powerhouse like Mozambique, Ghana players weren't real keen to talk to the media, but the media weren't having it. They literally blocked the bus from leaving the arena. One reporter named Joan Kincade was adamant that the players and coaches talk so he could nitpick the answers. Another Ghana media member who just have listened and twisted sister because he wasn't going to take it. He tweeted out a quote with the Ghana media, "We're here and we have taken it upon ourselves to sack whomever needs to be sacked," aka they're gonna get somebody fired. And he wasn't kidding, because when the coach made an appearance, the media members literally booed him. They yelled at him. They berated him, telling him he was not a good man.
Oh, no.
Even with security trying to get the media members to go home and write their stories, the media was unified in not letting the bus leave. Finally, some of the players came out just so they could go home, but the media members still weren't having it, and they just booed the players. So the next time you see a media member whining on Twitter because a player didn't talk to him, or let's say a coach was mean to them and, lit them up completely unprompted, just remind them that if they really cared, they'd try to block a bus and demand a one-on-one.
Yeah, did they ever cover a process, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I would say that they just covered one.
Yeah.
Pat,
They lost to Mozambique, Bobby.
There's no cheering or booing in the press box, Pat. That's rule number one.
Well, in Africa, it's a little bit different, all right? This was actually yesterday in sports because we were prepared for yesterday, but we had issues. Yesterday, 1950, Jackie Robinson signed the highest contract in Dodger history. Guys, any guesses how much?
$4,000.
$35,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then in 1962, he became the first African-American elected in the Baseball Hall of Fame. 2007, the 55th NHL All-Star Game took place, and Flyers general manager Danny Briere won MVP.
Wow.
And then in 2023, former Philly Scott Rowland entered the Baseball Hall of Fame, and that's a takes. Now, what was the story you were talking about?
Did you hear about the Chiefs fans that had the viewing party?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to chuckle while you're talking
No,
about this.
it is. It's a strange story. So the Ravens in the Ravens game are getting ready to play the Chiefs, but the Chiefs they had gathered to see the Chiefs play the Chargers in the final game of the season at this guy's house, and 3 people who went to the party froze to death outside. And we're
3 people?
Yes. 3 grown men froze to death outside.
How old were they?
David Harrington, 37.
37?
Ricky Johnson, 38. And Clayton McGeeney, 36, were found late in the evening on January 9th after a wellness call was placed by the fiance of one of the men. He had been to this party a couple days earlier, and he had never come home.
No one noticed?
And they were frozen to death in the backyard. Why in the world couldn't they have just walked somewhere? Like, it's the strangest story ever. And they're like, nobody got murdered here. Nobody got murdered here. We have no thing. And they're like, how can you tell? How do you know? They were frozen to death outside the backyard.
Everybody was probably drunk and just forgot.
And they passed out, is what I'm figuring. But the thing is, the guy who, the people came looking for him, and he said, no, they're not here. And they were in his backyard.
That must have been a big backyard.
For a day and a half. Like a day and a half. Like, people came to his door and were like, I'm looking for my husband. Nope, he's not here. He was in the backyard, frozen to death.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more than drinking too much. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't know what you're saying, Bobby.
Well, hey. Hey, game time's coming your way at 8:30. We will hear from Adam Schefter, top of the hour, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update. Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Adam Schefter at the top of the hour. Game time at the bottom of the hour. John Kincade Show on The Fanatic as we roll through the story of the aftermath of yesterday, and now we await the conclusion, and hopefully Adam will have some more clarity on it on the Vic Fangio story, which I think it appears as there seems to be a lot of positivity to it. I don't know about the offensive coordinator, though. I know that Gerard Johnson got supposedly interviewed for it. The Texans quarterback coach. I'm hoping we don't go with someone who has not called plays.
I got to tell you, the Vic Fangio thing makes me even want a bigger splash at the offensive coordinator. And I said from the beginning, I wanted Eric Bieniemy. I wanted two coordinators in here that really, may just say, okay, here we go, because, it appeared, and now it was justified yesterday that your head coach isn't running either side of the ball even a little bit. So I don't know. I want a big splash offensively.
Well, now let's just say if it wasn't Bieniemy, and by the way, it's deadly quiet on Eric Bieniemy.
I'm getting to the point where I need to push him to the side of my brain and accept the fact that it ain't going to be him, because you're right. It's been extremely quiet, and while we look at it as very, very qualified, I feel like he would have been interviewed at this point.
Or unless they already have an agreement of some kind, or I don't know. I don't know. You're right. It is awfully quiet on him.
It's very quiet on him.
You mentioned Todd Monken before.
But you're not getting him unless he was head coach, so you're done with that. He's staying in Baltimore. If he doesn't go anywhere.
Lateral move ain't happening.
Baltimore's loving what Monken's done, and in that relationship.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's got to be somebody that either they name and I look at the resume and I say, okay, great, that's good. But, man, I need splashes here. I don't want, all right, let's see if that. But then again, if you needed splashes, you should look to the defensive side of the ball more than the offensive side. You have a really good amount of talent on that offensive side of the ball. You should be able to bring somebody in that's competent, and they should be able to run an offense that looks really, really good because of the talent that you do have.
Well, if you bring in Johnson from the Texans, and they're like, look at the work he did as the quarterback's coach with C.J. Stroud this year. Impressive. C.J. Stroud, an incredible candidate, and a great, great job there. But again, he didn't design the offense. He didn't call the plays. And he worked with Nick Sirianni before.
Yes, he did.
So is it just one of those things where, hey, guy, I'm going to get you in here. I'm going to get you in here. You're going to give me more say. Come on now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's a scary thought to wonder where this is going.
So after yesterday gets done, and we have to watch that. It's our job, and for the people that want to talk about it, we have to have that. So you get done that, and I told you my friend Mike was so upset he turned it off. None of us here really came out of it going, "Oh, that was interesting." I think we were more like, "That was disgusting." What do you do to get yourself back in a better state of mind when it comes to sports? Because I have to praise our friends over at NBC Sports Philadelphia. Because I went out, I had to meet with some family yesterday, get done that, come home, still having the press conference in my mind, knowing the Sixers don't play, knowing the Flyers don't play, the Iowa women game I couldn't get on ESPNU. They were smart enough to replay the 76ers versus the San Antonio Spurs, the 70-point game of Joel Embiid. And I was like, good. Let me settle into some goodness.
I keep here and one of my friends and I go back and forth on this one. Pitchers and catchers reporting does nothing for me. Yeah. I love it. I love it when it happens. I love it better when I'm there, but I love it when it happens. But please, no, that's not getting me over because it has been a very, to me, lackluster Phillies offseason.
One of my least favorite traditions we have in all of sports is when your football team loses and the proverbial
pitchers and catchers.
How many days till pitchers and catchers report? And you're like, it's annoying. It's not creative. It doesn't make me feel better. Please, God, stop.
Pleased with the pitchers and catchers reporting. It doesn't do anything for me. Now, opening day of baseball does.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh,
and,
yes.
and that's my gripe is like, okay, pitchers and catchers reporting 6 weeks before the actual game matters. Like,
right.
I'm sorry, I can't get up for them showing up in sunny Clearwater when we got snow on the ground in Philly, and they're long tossing.
I got to tell you, I do like the pop of the glove, though.
Oh, yeah,
I love
does
to hear
it for
the
you?
mitt popping.
Huh?
Oh, yeah, it does. Only because it makes me think of warmer weather and
Yes.
stuff
Pop
like
the glove,
that. But-
pop a blue chew.
Yeah, so watched that last night, which was cool. Drifted around, watched some NBA action also going on. And, go to bed. What do I do every morning when I wake up, John? What's
Positive thought before your feet hit the
in my
ground.
head before the feet hit the ground. And you know what it was? To see what Joel Embiid does tonight.
And to hear it on 97.5 The Fanatic.
That's right. And they're at Indiana. It's a shame Halliburton isn't playing. They stretched out 3 games that he wasn't going to play because of a hamstring. That kind of sucks because I do want to see these two teams matched up against each other now that they have Siakam. But one of the first things I did this morning was look to see how Karl Anthony Towns did last night. Because he had 62 the same night and beat at 70. How do you respond after a game like that? He didn't have a good shooting night. He shot like 11 for 24 or 25, something like that. Scored some points. Was bad from three-point range. I think tonight how Joel Embiid reacts to his 70-point performance is going to be very interesting to watch.
It's a big one tonight because if you can get this one, there's a 5-game road trip. I'd like to see 3 wins while you're on it. 3 wins, 3-2, I'm fine. If you go 4-1, that is a absolute crazy road trip. That's awesome. But you're in a real battle for that 2 seed with Milwaukee, and I want to think about it. It's not too early for me to be like, look, Doc Rivers is there. There's probably going to be a little transition period. There may be a few bumps in the road there. I want home court for 2 series.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't want 7th game like last year. I don't want the 7th game to be in Boston. Like I don't want the 7th game to be in Milwaukee this year. It's a big difference.
It is, no doubt about it. Yeah, you want to just see good play all along. And how does it change? You're coming off a 70-point performance. Your last memory, if you're a player coach of the Sixers, is give it to Joe, give it to Joe, give it to Joe, give it to Joe. Now, that should be a big part of your offense, but it's not the only part. Do you just readjust tonight and be able to come back and play your normal basketball? It sounds easy. I understand it. Seen a lot of games. Is there going to be a tinge of him taking some bad shots? We'll have to keep an eye on that tonight. But, looking forward to the Sixers game tonight.
Before we get to Adam Schefter, Brian in Dallas. Quickly, Brian, come on in.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We're all right, buddy. We're all right, buddy.
Hey, so real quick, I was hearing you guys talking about Eric Bieniemy, right? And I think you can look out on the internet because I've been following this guy, and there's a report out of Washington that the players there don't like him. My theory is he's a 2-time Super Bowl winning champion. He's out of Andy Reid's camp. This guy knows what he's doing, and Washington is not a championship team, so this guy just don't like, the pressure he's putting on him. I don't think Howie wants that here. Because the enemy seems like the guy that's going to challenge. Like, no, I know how to do this. I know how to win. And I think that could be the reason why we're not hearing any noise.
Yeah, they didn't. And they didn't even interview him before. So, I mean, that's.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Because I would figure knowing Howie, he would probably, say, interview Reed. And I know Reed would endorse him, obviously, right?
Right.
But Howie's probably like, I don't know. I don't want a guy coming up here really telling me how to run this football team. We know Eric Bieniemy knows how to call plays. We know he knows how to run the offense.
And that's that's it. We got to run to. We're getting to Adam Schefter here, but I get you. That may not be the fit. May not be the fit. Not everybody's going to work together.
And that's the description of Bieniemy. He's a no BS kind of coach, and a lot of players don't like that. I don't care. If you're producing, I don't care if you like me or not.
Hey, no BS. The NFL's premier insider, Adam Schefter, joins us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day, and Comcast Business gets you ready for what's next. Brought to you by our friends at Landis Block and Concrete. Adam, we appreciate your patience coming in with us, but getting a chance to talk to you the day after that press conference yesterday, it was certainly eye-opening for all of us, and ear-opening.
Why do you say that, John?
Because I've never seen a head coach more. It was like have your pet spayed or neutered. He's not going to run the offense. He's not going to oversee the defense. He is. What do you do? And his answer was, "I'm the head coach." I just every answer was worse than the first yesterday in that entire press conference.
Well, I didn't watch it the way you watched it. I read some of the transcript that I was living in a Jim Harbaugh universe.
Yes.
But I can tell you this. The fact of the matter is they had meetings when the season ended, and there were a lot of different ways that the organization could have proceeded forward. Some of them could have included Nick Sirianni. Some of them couldn't. They obviously opted to keep Nick, and they obviously opted to make dramatic changes on the staff. So clearly there are going to be a lot of different things that happen, a lot of different looks, a lot of different personnel, a lot of different coaching, a lot of different everything, because nobody's happy with the way last season ended. And when you have the head coach up there, it starts right there. And so you refer to it as being neutered. I just say there's going to be a lot of changes, and you've already begun to see it reflected in the staff. So it only figures that he would be a major part of all that. And this is the way they've decided to move forward. And now we'll see how they decide to fill out the staff.
Speaking on that, Schefter, reports obviously from you included, I believe, that Vic Fangio is the leader in the clubhouse. Do you expect that to get done quickly? And then going forward, how long do you think it'll take him to get that offensive coordinator in here?
I expect Vic Fangio to be the defensive coordinator. I expect that to move quickly. I expect that he will be hired as the Eagles guy. I don't know whether that's today, tomorrow, next week, but I would be floored if Vic Fangio did not turn out to be the Eagles defensive coordinator. You could take that and write that down, and he's going to be the guy. And now the question becomes, okay, that to me dramatically helps the defense. He's, to me, one of the best defensive coordinators out there. And really, to me, that was the start of the downfall of last year, because if Vic had been in place, I think some of those things might have been preventable, avoided, limited, diminished, whatever you want to call it. So to me, that's absolutely the right move. He's got children and his mother in the Pennsylvania area. It makes sense for everybody for him to come back, to be near his family, to run the Eagles defense. And I think he'll be a major boost to that organization when that does get finalized.
I mean, as
for the
go ahead.
No, what were you saying?
No, how about the other side of the ball, like I asked?
Yeah, well, that's where I was going.
Yeah, right.
And they had Gerard Johnson and the Texans quarterbacks coach yesterday. They've spoken to Cliff Kingsbury. I think they're talking to a whole slew of candidates. I know they've spoken to at least one guy at the college level. I don't know whether anything like that will materialize or not. So they're going through a little bit more of a process. That's a little bit more involved, in my mind, than the search for defensive coordinators. Defensive coordinator is easy and done. Offensive coordinator, not as cut and dried.
It's interesting, though. We already found out yesterday, and that was from Nick Sirianni's mouth, that the new offensive coordinator will be their offense. They will call the plays, and they will have the final say. That's that's what Nick Sirianni was supposed to be brought in here. When he was hired, he was supposed to be an offensive expert. That was what is supposed to be his level of expertise. And when asked what he's going to do now, he goes, well, maybe I'll pop into a defensive meeting. Maybe it was so awkward yesterday to hear him try to explain what his role is, and it doesn't seem like he's the one calling any of these shots as far as who's getting these jobs or otherwise.
Well, I think he's absolutely involved in an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Like the Vic Fangio one is an easy one. Like the fans could have called that. You could have called that. I could have. That's easy. Okay? The offensive coordinator is a bit more involved. And I think they all have a say. I don't think Nick's desires, wishes, outlook is ignored in that search. I'm sure he's going to have some input. Maybe it's not as much as he might have in other years. I don't know. But I don't think they're just going to tell him, oh, Nick, we by the way, we hired John Kincade as your offensive coordinator. And he's like, okay, great. That's not how it's going to work. He's going to have some input and some say, but yeah, do I think that there are other voices and other decision makers all across involved? Absolutely.
Schefter, you said earlier offensive coordinator hiring isn't as cut and dry as a Vic Fangio. Is that just because who Vic Fangio is, that's a no-brainer? Or do they look more deeply into offensive coordinators?
No, we know Vic is the guy.
Okay.
So that's easy. The offensive coordinator, I think there are a lot of good candidates, but there's nobody that jumps out and is obvious as Vic right now.
Okay.
And their job is to identify the offensive guys and to find out who they believe in as much as they believe in Vic. So that's the process they're going through, and I don't know whether that'll take 24 hours, 48, 72, whatever it may be, but they'll find somebody that they believe in, and that'll be an important hire for this organization moving forward.
Adam Schefter joining us thanks to Atlantis Block and Concrete. We appreciate him. I can tell you, Adam, is that one of the things I've never seen, Nick was flailing on some answers. And at one point, Howie just interrupts the press as someone else was asking a question of Nick and says, hey, direct one at me. Direct one at me now. He literally was like, he couldn't have done anything more than put one of those airline life preservers over Nick Sirianni during that press conference. He's telling the media, direct one at me now. Send one to me.
John, you were not impressed with that press conference.
No, it was the worst. It was the worst I've ever seen. And Adam, I had to witness. I witnessed some Dan Quinn and some and Bobby Petrino press conferences in my day. It was the worst I've ever seen.
And worst in the sense that it looked bad for Nick.
Yes. And it looked like the general manager was just there to literally interrupt people asking questions of Nick, or to stop Nick in mid-answer multiple times and take the question from him.
Well, again, they went through a rather traumatic season. They are determined to try to make it right. And so you saw some of that, I guess, by the way you're describing it, reflected in the way that press conference was carried out. And again, I didn't see it. I don't know what to say about it other than they're not going to have a season like that without there being some price to pay and ramifications for it.
So, Shefty, talk to me about Vic Fangio a little bit. A guy that has many disciples in this league as coordinators or assistants around the league. Is he a guy that's going to come in and the type of coach that's going to come in and play to his talent, or is he more of a scheme guy that he has his scheme and he gets it to the players to play to that?
You know, I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I think he does play to his scheme, of course, but he's going to adjust to his talent as well. And he likes to feature, guys on the edge rushers, and that's a primary component. But to me, Vic is somebody that, is so smart defensively that he figures out how to get it done with the strength of your defense, and I believe he'll do that in Philly. He's been successful as a coordinator in that regard, basically everywhere he's been. He's a student of the game in that regard, knows that side of the football like few people. When the Eagles went to the Super Bowl run, he was a part of that too.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I don't know what his official title was, consultant or advisor or in the building or whatever you want to call it. But they benefited that year from his presence. So it's not like he's stepping in and doesn't know the organization or the person. He knows these things. He knows. And, it's unfortunate that last year didn't work out the way that he and the organization and Eagles fans wanted, because the truth of the matter is he shouldn't have gone. He should have been there the whole year. And it just got sidetracked, and he went to Miami, and his family was back there, and the Eagles defense missed him, and he missed it, and now they finally get the chance to get back together again this year.
Adam, how could the most successful coach, arguably in NFL history, not be able to find a job? Or is he not looking that intently in Bill Belichick?
No, he's looking, and he wants to coach. Here's what I would say to that. Tom Brady, when he was a free agent, leaving New England, literally had two of 32 teams that were seriously interested in his services. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Other teams looked at it and said, no thank you. Last year, Lamar Jackson, free agent. Nobody interested enough to sign him to an offer sheet. This year, Bill Belichick, one team has interviewed him so far, the Atlanta Falcons, twice. And they've also since then brought in a slew of other candidates to interview for a second time. So they may decide to go with Bill Belichick, but they may not. And it's certainly not a lock that they'll pick him at all. And my point of all this is just that because you're the greatest quarterback of all time, or a now two-time MVP who could win the Super Bowl this season, or the greatest coach of all time, just because you have those distinctions, qualities, traits, profiles, doesn't mean that the league is always smart enough to do the right thing. I can't help or explain why teams wouldn't go out and hire Bill Belichick. That to me is absurd. But then again, same teams didn't go after Lamar Jackson and didn't decide to pursue Tom Brady. And while it's a very, very smart league with unbelievably sharp minds who do cutting-edge things, sometimes the best decisions are not always made. There should have been more teams that went after Tom Brady. There should have been more teams that went after Lamar Jackson. And in my mind, there should be more teams that would be interested in Bill Belichick. Now, I don't know whether it's because they haven't won in New England recently, or his age, or they feel like he will want things run a certain way, or all of them. All of them. But honestly, it reminds me of the coaching version of Tom Brady. Tom Brady left. People doubted him. People thought his performance was declining. They thought he was older in age. Didn't know that he would be able to get it done, and they passed. And I feel like it's the same thing for a guy who I think would be an immediate asset for a team.
Do you believe that there's any friction from what you've heard between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' relationship? And do you think Jalen Hurts was okay with Brian Johnson being shown the door?
Well, I would imagine that he didn't love Brian Johnson being shown the door. I also would imagine they probably spoke to him. I don't think they just fired him and Jalen Hurts was on social media and saw it there. What was the first question?
As far as the relationship between Jalen Hurts, too, and his coach, you think it's a good relationship there?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I that's my honest answer. I don't know. I think that question's come up. It's probably fair to come up. I think that's best for them to explain. If I had the information, I would happily share that. I don't know that their relationship is good, bad, strained, indifferent, or what. But my guess would be that Jalen could have been particularly pleased that Brian Johnson's gone. But I also probably think it's just another reminder to him, as we all learn over and over. This is the business, and teams do things that they do, and people don't always like or agree with it. And there would be another example that just reinforces to Jalen Hurts that no matter how you feel, don't forget that it's a business.
Great job, Adam. We appreciate you, and thanks for your patience yesterday.
You got it, guys.
Thanks,
there you
Schefter.
go, buddy. Adam Schefter joined us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day, and Comcast Business gets you ready for what's next. We'll divest of some of that information, plus get you ready for game time at the bottom of the hour. Your chance to win fabulous prizes. Brendan's going to put all those numbers on hold. John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic.
Hey, with the NFL playoffs, you got to win one game at a time. But when you bet the NFL playoffs on FanDuel in partnership with Valley Forge, one game can mean a lot of W's.
The John Kincade Show. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Interesting discussion there with Adam Schefter. We appreciate that. Thanks to Landis Block and Concrete. LandisBC.com. I don't know. It's the objective of one of these end of season press conferences is to answer questions. I don't think they did that. And so in that mind, I don't think that there were people like they answered the questions. No, they didn't.
That's their objective sometimes.
They're very fortunate that it's the end of the season. Because I think when the season does end up rolling around, like they're lucky that they don't have a game to play. They're not going to be the focal point necessarily.
They get a little time off.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't have to speak for a while because when they eventually do end up taking the podium again, we will have this on our mind. But in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking NBA trade deadline. That's probably going to be our focus, right? Like they're not going to be at the forefront like they were for the past couple months. And we're not going to be dissecting everything they say. So in a way, I appreciate them saving the worst for last. The absolute worst.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
It was so bad.
I really don't understand it. And look, I was going in there a little bit on Howie Roseman. It was not. I don't think that was going over well. But Howie Roseman interrupting his head coach multiple times, taking questions off of his plate, asking the media, "Ask me a question. Ask me a question." I've never seen that. I have never seen that. Yes, well, what direct one at me. Please.
Yeah, my wondering also was how the press conference was conducted. We've all been in many of them, and people listening out there have watched many of them. A lot of times they'll pass around the microphone. It'll be hands raised. You're next. Here you go. Howie over here. John over there. Whatever. They just let people bull rush it.
That was incredible yesterday.
That was surprising by me and must have been planned out by Eagles PR. Because you don't usually – I've never seen – when you have an end-of-the-season press conference, if it's like that, televised, everything, you're usually more in order than people just shouting questions.
It was a free-for-all.
Usually it's all right, let's go up and down here. And there was reasoning behind that. I'm not exactly sure what it was. But to your point –
you have a theory on it?
we want – I don't. I tried to think of it. I don't, maybe because you can look and get the question that you want from somebody.
Okay.
But – when you said, you want questions answered, that's not their objective a lot of times. Their objective is to go in there and not answer the questions. And that's why we hear a lot of times putting guys in better positions and I have to do better and that's on me. Those are just key ways to get away from answering the questions.
My gosh. They succeeded in that regard.
Mission accomplished, boys.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely succeeded in that regard. There's going to be some damage control that's got to be done. As far as just there's going to be there's a crisis of confidence in their head coach. And the only thing that's going to happen is they can totally wash this clean with a great offensive coordinator hire that gets people excited, a renewed energy around when the team reconvenes, free agency period comes around, a good draft. We're all going to be back on the bandwagon, whether they have a great offseason or not. We're all going to be there for it. It might be there to see the carnage, but we're going to be there for it. And everybody is rooting for it to end up being a great offseason. And, I guarantee you this. There's one thing I would think I can know watching Howie Roseman's resume. He's not going to sit on this quietly. He's going to try to come up with a cologne that overcomes this stink. And that might be a big free agency signing. That may be a trade. That may be whatever it is. I think I have confidence that he is going to be able to make a few moves that get us very excited about the offseason.
Well, short of firing your head coach, they've already certainly started, haven't they?
Yes.
I mean, they're going after 2 new coordinators. You get them in here, ask them, find out exactly what they're looking for as far as makeup of this team. That lends to how you draft or how you go about free agency, all of those things. But man, putting perfume on a pig, I think they've already done a lot of that with the firing of 2 of their coordinators.
Was it a mistake? Do you believe the fact that Howie Roseman, truth serum, would say I should have stepped in and not let him fire Sean Desai? Let him demote Sean Desai? Since we found out yesterday, that was Nick Sirianni's call.
Yeah, I think they definitely regret that decision because the defense got noticeably worse.
Terrible.
So it wasn't like I thought the defense was playing great, but the defense was playing worse. You had to look back on that and go like, yeah, that was probably a mistake in hindsight. And this, by the way, this is coming from, I feel like, an organization and a guy in Howie that doesn't necessarily admit a lot of times that he makes mistakes. He kind of deflects on that. He doesn't want to focus on the mistakes. But I felt like yesterday there was one positive you could take out. I do feel like they kind of admitted, yeah, in hindsight, that wasn't the smartest move to make.
Yeah,
and you
that was
don't hear that a lot.
And they get credit for that.
They
get
do,
credit for
but
that.
it
They
tells
should.
you how bad of a move it really was if they can't sugarcoat it. Howie will usually attempt to sugarcoat most bad things that happen in NovaCare. And, you know, that trickle-down effect happened. We saw with, like, Brian Johnson would do the same thing. He'd 3rd and 15 bubble screen. Well, no, it was actually a really good call. It's just the defense played incredible. Like, come on, man. You're sugarcoating it. Yesterday, they couldn't sugarcoat that defensive change.
No, the oddity of it is, did you really feel you had to do something at 10-3? Yeah, we saw how the team was playing and all that, but it's odd. I don't care how you're playing. It's odd that you're making a change there at 10-3. So I don't know why Nick Sirianni felt the need to do it. Obviously, it backfired, and I guess he thought he had somebody waiting in the wings that could do a better job than Matt Patricia, but that didn't seem to happen.
Well, let's see what we can lighten the mood again with a little bit of fun on this Thursday, as we always call it, game time.
Gentlemen, on the heels of the best press conference we've maybe ever listened to with Howie and Nick, we're going to play the press conference game. 610-632-0975. The way this is going to work is you gentlemen have sheets in front of you with quotes on it. You're just going to read the quote. And it's up to the caller to tell me who said that famous quote at a press conference. Some of them are athletes. Some of them are from the sports world. Some of them are not. Some of them are just maybe politicians, maybe music artists, maybe just famous people, right? 610-632-0975. And we do have some fabulous prizes to give away. A pair of tickets to go see the Flyers Bruins Saturday at the Wells Fargo Center. A pair of tickets to go see the Sixers Nets February 3rd at the Wells Fargo Center. A pair of tickets to go see Green Day with the Smashing Pumpkins, Rancid, and the Lindas on Friday, August 9th at CBP. A pair of tickets to go see Motley Crue on May 3rd. A pair of tickets to go see Hardy at Freedom Mortgage Pavilion. And Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom, starring Jason Momoa on digital. Also, all winners get the prize, plus a box of Wise chips. Wise Snacks is giving away authentic pro football jerseys to 100 lucky fans. Munched on the good vibe on game day with Wise Snacks. Go to wisegameday.com for your chance to win. All right, let's kick it off here. John, you're going to be the first guy to read.
First guy reading,
right,
okay.
We're going to go to Jarrett in Levittown first.
Jarrett, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, Jarrett, so all you have to do is just tell me who said this quote that John's about to read off, okay?
All right, let's do it.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. You all can sit here and you can ask me all the questions you want to. I'm going to answer with the same answers. You all can shoot if you all please.
Marshawn Lynch.
He doesn't even need to finish it. I still want to play it, though, because it's an all-timer.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined, so y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please. I'm here so I won't get fined.
I love that. Jared, you're awesome, man.
Yes, Jared ended up crushing that one. He is going to go see the Flyers Bruins on Saturday at the Wells Fargo Center. Get tickets at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com. It is that simple. Bobby, you are up next. You are going to be playing with John in the Northeast, all right?
Hey, John, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on, Bobby?
All right, here we go. I learned to seek support from my peers in therapy, and I hope someday to return that support to others that are seeking help. I do plan to return to golf one day. When I do return, I need to make my behavior more respectful to the game.
I'm terrible with golf. I don't know. Tiger Woods.
No,
yeah, you're not that bad with golf.
John.
Yes, Tiger Woods is correct.
That's
on
when they
that
forced him to go to sex.
Yeah.
A sex addiction.
Yeah. They said go have sex.
Yeah, go.
Well, he was having plenty of that.
Go play with your putter. John is going to end up winning Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom starring Jason Momoa on digital. Buy it now and get $3 off the digital movie at wb.com/Lost Kingdom.
Could have been his driver.
If I was Tiger, I would never have done that.
We know he has issues with drivers. Let's go to Ray in Washington Township next.
Hi, Ray. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
All right, Ray, you're going to be playing with John Kincade. John, take it away.
But I want to say one thing to the American people, and I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The one and only Bill Clinton.
Let's find out. Let's find out. That could be anybody, Johnny.
It could be anybody, yeah.
To the American people, I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Well, he made it clear.
Yeah, he definitely made it clear. All right, that was a lie, but it does end up winning him a prize. He's gonna go see the Sixers and Nets on February 3rd. Wells Fargo Center. Purchase tickets for any 76ers game. Visit Ticketmaster.com/76ers. Let's go next to Kenny in Mayfair. Kenny's gonna be playing with Bobby.
Kenny, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Hopefully.
All right, here we go. When you come into the arena and see me play, you see me play, don't you? You see me give everything I got, right? But we talking about practice right now.
The one and only guard from the 76ers. Can't think of his name.
What?
Oh, no.
Practice,
Really?
Kenny.
I'll give you 5 seconds.
Oh.
Practice? Talk about practice?
1. Kenny, I gotta let you go, man. I mean,
there's no answer for that one, Kenny.
I mean, we're not talking Rodney Carney here. We're talking.
When you come in the arena and you see me play, don't you? You see me give everything I got, right? But we talking about practice right now.
Yeah, Kenny. I can't even save you on that one. Let's see.
That's terrible.
Let's see if Sean from Mount Laurel can get us back in the win
I think
column.
Sean can do it.
All right, Sean, you're gonna be playing with John Kincade. Listen to the quote. Tell me who it is.
Cool.
There's an old saying in Tennessee. It's in Texas, so it's probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, fool me, you can't get fooled again.
Who said it?
George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Hey, let's find out. It could be his dad.
Oh,
all
it
right?
could be his dad. You're right.
Could be a J. Cole song. Let's find out.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Yes. Thank you to J. Cole for that one. Kenny, I'm sorry, not Kenny. Sean, you were going to end up winning the pair of tickets to go see Green Day with the Smashing Pumpkins, Rancid, and the Linda Lindas on Friday, August 9th at CBP. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Let's keep it rolling.
By the way, I listened to some Linda Lindas.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
There you go.
So there you go. I never knew their work.
All right, let's go to Antonio in Bryn Mawr. Antonio in Bryn Mawr.
Antonio.
Hi.
All right, buddy, you ready?
You're playing with Bobby, all right? Bobby, take it away.
All right.
This fall, man, this is very tough. And this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and play for the Miami Heat.
The GOAT, LeBron James.
Yes,
Wow,
LeBron James
Antonio
is
with a winner.
indeed correct. Here's what it sounded like.
And this fall, man, this is very tough. And this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
It's one of those moments I think we all remember where we were when we found out that he was actually leaving Cleveland. But he just won Antonio a pair of tickets to go see Hardy at Freedom Mortgage Pavilion on June 27th. Tickets are now on sale at Ticketmaster.com. Let's go to Richard and Cherry Hill next.
All right, Richard.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Let's see if we can get you a winner here. This one's not easy.
Okay.
Where we're at in society today, come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm not a kid.
Who said it?
Bad
40.
mullet. Bad mullet.
I think this one is easy.
Bad
name-
mullet.
Bad mullet. Bad dye
I'll give
job,
you 5
too.
seconds, man.
Mr. T. I don't know.
No, Mr. T is not correct. Mullet, I think you were thinking Mohawk, but no, this one was Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy.
Where are we at in society today? Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm not a kid.
Man, and bad dye job and bad mullet.
We'll give you the wise chips, though, so put them on
Yes,
hold. And
put 'em
we'll
on
get
hold.
You,
We'll get
we'll
him
get you
some
that.
chips.
Let's get a couple more in here. Let's go to Brenton on the cell. Brenton's up next.
Hey, Brent.
And he's going to be playing with Bobby Kincade. Bobby Cooney. Bobby Kincade. Jeez. Sorry. You guys are
Right
like
there,
the same.
Pat?
You guys are like the same person.
All right,
Yeah,
Brent,
just
here
read
we
the
go.
quote.
One day, this nation will rise up, live out to true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I'm not.
Just celebrated the holiday.
Okay, Martin Luther King. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, you weren't sure until Bobby just handed it to you.
Pushed him over the hand.
This nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Yes, and he just won Brenton a pair of tickets to go see Motley Crue on May 3rd at the Hard Rock Live at Edis Arena at Hard Rock Hotel in Atlantic City. Tickets for both the May 3rd and May 4th shows are now on sale at Ticketmaster.com. Let's get like 2 more in here. Let's go to Tony on the cell next.
All right, Tony, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Let's see what we can do. You know, every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. One's very fortunate to get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world.
I had no idea.
Apple.
Steve Jobs.
Wow. Okay, well, let's find out. I don't know. I mean, Apple, that could be Woz.
Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. One's very fortunate if you get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world.
Sounds like a Sirianni press conference. Yes.
It does. There it is.
Pair of tickets to go see the Flyers and Bruins at the Wells Fargo Center this Saturday goes to our winner. And then finally, let's wrap it up. Let's go to Joanne from Media. She's going to be playing with Bobby to close it out.
Hey, Joanne, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Give you 5 seconds.
I'm sorry, I don't know that one.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. It is a former head coach in the NFL, and it is the legendary Denny Green.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Wow, all-timer right there.
Yeah, it was.
All-time rant when his Cardinals almost beat the undefeated Bears, but they didn't. They let him off the hook. And we will let the listener off the hook with Game Time. That's it. It's over.
There he gets some good wise chips, though. Even if you lose.
Yeah, everybody walks away with something, so.
Now, when they say a box of wise chips, is that like a box? Because I
think it's like a full box.
I
where
love
it's like,
wise
it's
chips.
like a ton of them. Yeah,
I
think
love
you're
wise
good.
chips.
I think Sirianni and Roseman could have used some wise chips because they sounded like, well, they didn't sound wise yesterday.
There was
Sounded like doodles.
There was there was something up.
Just toasted their ass.
There was really something up with the whole thing yesterday. Just really, really strange. Hey, you're going to hear Sixers basketball tonight in the Fanatic. The Sixers get ready to go on a really long road trip. And what's it going to mean? Bobby will talk a little bit about it next. John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic. If you're a real Philly sports fan,
and HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The John Kincade Show with Bob Cooney and Pat Egan continues. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
This is like putting it on a tee for Pat Egan, but Bob, I know you have some thoughts on it too. How in the world is Chase Utley closer to the Hall of Fame than Jimmy Rollins?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Jimmy Rollins is a surefire Hall of Famer. I mean, you look at his numbers compared to other shortstops, and then you have to go to his defense through those years. Unbelievable. Absolutely Hall of Fame worthy. To me, Utley, Ryan Howard, they fall just short, however you want to put it. But I couldn't believe when the totals came out the other day that Utley was at, and nothing against Utley.
Nothing against him.
No, I just think that Jimmy Rollins, MVP, over 2,500 hits.
Leads the franchise in
hits. Yeah, I just...
Don't make me pull the paper out.
I'm not going to make you pull it out,
Don't
Pat.
make me.
I don't think of anyone else as soon as I hear Jimmy Rollins' name except for you.
Oh yeah, don't. People will take credit. I've been driving this bandwagon for years since he was playing. Yeah, I was appalled. I texted somebody in the know and said the same thing. Like, I'm really surprised that Utley's at like 30% and Rollins is still at 15%. And the text I got back was analytics. It's analytically driven.
Analytics.
When you look at analytics, Chase Utley was the, quote, better player.
That's so freaking stupid.
You know, look, it does make sense in the fact that the voters nowadays, the old school home runs, RBIs, base hits, that voter is retiring. And the new age, analytically driven community is stepping into their place. And those guys now have votes. And they're not looking at simply just hits and home runs and RBIs and stolen bases. They're looking at R-WAR and Z-Packs.
Z-Pack, was someone sick?
I'm just making stuff up. Like, I don't understand. But like all the stuff that you exit velo, and they're looking at all that crap, and we're sitting there going, yeah, but I watched the two. And I'm not sitting here telling you that Chase Utley isn't a Hall of Famer, but I'm telling you that guy right there, that Jimmy Rollins guy, like, he is a Hall of Famer. And I'm just basing this off of when you compare him to other people in the Hall of Fame. He is a Hall of Famer.
No one can make the argument to me that Utley should be closer to the Hall of Fame than Rollins.
Now,
and again, it's no knock on Chase Utley.
No. I love Chase. I don't want to make this Chase versus Jimmy,
right.
But I did get the same text back from the same person who said it's possible they could end up elevating each other, which would be cool. So basically, it's like, well, yeah, the same conversation we're having now ends up elevating both Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley. I would hate to think that Jimmy Rollins is gonna end up, sitting there at like 70% of the vote his last year, because at that point the writers have caught on to the fact of like, oh yeah, that guy was pretty damn good too.
I still think,
and then he gets shafted.
I still think though, when you're talking about the Hall of Fame and who's getting in and everything like that, I don't believe the writers should be the ones that determine it. Now, part of determining it, sure, but determining it, it's ridiculous.
Well, who else would you put in there?
Well, I'd put in I would have a board. I've already thought of this over and over. A board of former players.
Isn't that the Veterans Committee?
No, but I don't want the people to have to wait. Why should somebody have to wait for a Veterans Committee?
No, I get you on that.
I want it to be a elected group of former players, elected group of former executives that are right there at the table, and they control 2/3 of the vote.
I'm cool with that. I do like the fact that the Veterans Committee will right the wrongs of the writers.
It's a shame that it has to happen.
Yeah.
You have to wait around. Andrew Jones isn't a Hall of Famer.
That's crazy.
Shut up. I mean, it's just stupid. It's stupid.
Well, and I think, and I'm not saying this happens with all media members, but there are, especially in baseball, when you have that many games, there are grudges that get held.
Oh, yes.
And
absolutely.
That is human nature.
A personal
sometimes
agenda?
Sometimes you can't separate. And I'm not sitting here, sitting on a virtue singing and acting like I want to do the same thing if somebody treated me wrong, and then they're up for the Hall of Fame and I get to get back at them. Like, I'm not going to tell you I wouldn't.
I don't think you would.
I might. No. I might not. I don't know. I'm not put in that position is my point. Like, but if I was put in that position, I'm not above sitting here saying I wouldn't consider keeping them out and going, yeah, screw you, dude. You were a J.O. to me my entire career. You never gave me a quote. You never gave me a story. You always brushed me off. All right, well, payback. And I'm sure that there are some writers that do end up doing that. I don't think that's happening in the case of Jimmy Rollins, but I don't think that leadership will go into the thinking of the new age voter. And I think it should, because while Chase Utley was an incredible player, and once again, Hall of Fame, fine. I'm not going to argue with that. But the leader of that team was Jimmy Rollins. And without Jimmy Rollins doing what he did, and every player on that team will tell you, him saying we're the team to beat in 07, and then him going out and winning the MVP, and then 08, like the dude was the leader of that team. That counts for something in my opinion.
The story will continue on that one for years to come, unfortunately. Where is Bob, a 5-game road trip coming up for the Sixers beginning tonight? You're going to hear it here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And we're talking about it now, that it's a challenge for this team to go out on the road. And tonight, an interesting challenge, maybe without Tobias Harris.
Yeah, maybe without Tobias Harris. Marcus Morris is dealing with something. Pat Beverly was out last game. I don't know the update on him yet. Yeah, it's a good test. Now Halliburton not playing. God, he's like one of the best players in the league now. He's really, really good. Them not having him, they haven't found their stride yet with Siakam coming in. They've lost a little bit lately. Yeah, it's a challenge for the Sixers tonight. When you come off a game like the other night where your star gets 70, that's different. That takes you to a different place. It'll be interesting to see if they can just get back to normalcy tonight. And normalcy being great that Joel Embiid averages 36 a game, and you expect 36 and 11 and 5 out of him all the time. But there is something to be said for that. And to get back into it, maybe it's a good thing that they're on the road. That takes a little bit away from it. And, yeah, it's going to be a tough trip. At Indiana, at Denver, at Portland, Golden State, and then finishing up with Utah. But, you know, people, you hear it nationally now. People are including the Sixers. It isn't just Boston, Milwaukee. And with the news about Milwaukee lately, it's more of, it's surprising that you get rid of your coach when you're second in the East and chasing Boston, but watch out for Philadelphia. People are really impressed with the way this Sixers team is playing right now.
Well, they're playing really well, and it does seem like there's a certain depth involved that hasn't been there before. Like this team feels deeper. I don't know how much deeper they really are, but they feel deeper, and they appear, and it may be the approach of the coach.
Yeah, and you haven't really gotten to feel how much deeper yet because of the injury to DeAnthony Melton. Is he going to be coming off the bench with Kelly Oubre starting? If he does he lend you some more scoring to that second unit? That's what Nick Nurse was leaning towards. I forget what game we were, where he was speaking at a press conference a couple weeks ago, and he said before the game that DeAnthony was out and Kelly Oubre was going to start for him, and it might be something that they're looking at. I think that's what he wants to do. I think he wants DeAnthony Melton coming off the bench. Then you think of it. You have Melton coming off the bench. You have Patrick Beverly, obviously, Marcus Morris. You play Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris usually with that second unit. It makes it interesting and even deeper, like you said, John.
Listener called me out on something yesterday where he said, you brought up the fact that the Sixers would have to play the Heat if the season ended at the time. In the standings, it would be the 3-6 matchup. And how do you think that would go? And he was like, I feel a hell of a lot better having Nick Nurse matching wits with a guy like Eric Spoelstra. But it's going to be brutal trying to get through it, especially if you got you got to go through Spo just to get out of the first round. That's not easy. But he always tends to have his team playing best when it matters the most.
That's a little too far down my road to look at playoff matchups right now when you're halfway through the season.
Well, that's why I want the 2 seed.
Yeah.
That's why I want the 2 seed. I would rather have
stay in the moment.
I would rather have that 2 seed and get it on.
And it's cool. They have a Saturday ABC game at 5:30.
That's an interesting
game in
one,
Denver.
yeah.
It's cool. ABC's, the NBA's doing a neat thing. They have the Wednesday night games now, like I was watching Dallas and my God, why am I drawing a blank? Dallas and Phoenix last night, right? Phoenix.
It was Dallas Phoenix.
Yeah. So I was watching that for a little bit last night. They have like these double, triple headers now on Saturdays. Saturday 5:30 game. Sixers.
That's a great game.
That's awesome. That's a great way to break up a Saturday. So, hopefully they take advantage of that. National television audience, I like Joel Embiid when he plays in those things. He usually seems to shine. When I was covering the team and, they were rarely on a national game, they finally kind of get over that process thing. They get on a national game, and, you can't keep him out of it. Unfortunately, I think it was against Houston. He hurt his knee and he was out for 3 weeks after that. But, this is an interesting time for them. 5-game road trip right now. You're playing real well. I think they've won, 6, 7 in a row, 29-13. Sitting good. Get a little bit more healthy and see where this goes.
Has Jokic ever, really stared down Embiid and given him the what for?
No, Embiid owns him.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's part of the fun of watching.
It is. And I love watching Jokic play. And last night watching Doncic play. I do like watching those guys play. And it leads me to a question for you guys that I put out with my friends last night, John.
Okay.
And it's cool. We do this. This is how my friends roll. You come up with a question in your head, and you shoot it out to a bunch of people to get different answers and have a conversation on it. So mine was this last night as I was watching Luka Doncic play. If you were starting an NBA team today, John, you're starting an NBA team, Pat, and myself, and you get to pick any player in the NBA to start that NBA team, who would it be?
And it's got to be with the players at their current age.
This year, right now.
Okay, so it's right now.
You can't take Wilt Chamberlain, John.
No, I can't do
dead.
that. I can't do that. We'll be able to be in the mix.
Larry Bird ain't hitting that jumper for you anymore.
I was leaning more towards Uncle Shaq, but I was thinking, no. Wow. It depends.
I'll say the three names that I threw out to my friends. Luka Doncic.
Well, he's on my list.
Nikola Jokic.
He's on my list.
Joel Embiid.
I think I'd go Jokic.
Really?
And the reason why I would is because of injury history of one and something about Luka I don't think lends itself to being the guy that you build around. So that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to say that Doncic more healthy. And so I think that there could be a better chance that when I need to count on him, he'll be there.
But you have Jokic 1, Doncic 2?
No, I would have Embiid's 2.
Oh, okay.
But Doncic, I don't. There's something about him, and it's not fair because I don't have personal knowledge of it. But as far as building around him, I'm not sure that he's the guy you build around.
Pat, and that's funny because he's the guard, and usually a lot of people like to do that. But Pat, who would you go with? Anybody, but if you want to dwindle it down to those three, you can do that too. Do you have somebody outside of those three?
Yeah, I have Giannis.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
And a lot of it has to do with health. I think he's going to stay healthier, and especially over Embiid. I love Embiid, and if it wasn't for health, I'd pick Embiid. But
it's weird that we both passed because of the health.
Yeah, the health thing does worry me. I just,
I'm building a team.
I can't really stay healthy, and he's great when he plays, but you need him to play, and I don't really see it a lot. Giannis, I feel like he usually stays healthy. Jokic will probably be 2. After that, oh, man. I don't know. I mean, Doncic is great. Yeah, all right.
You feel the same way with Doncic as I do?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like there's something about him that just doesn't ring to me that great individual performer to me.
Yeah, Giannis is a great one because I've said before and I continue to say it, as hard it is to match up with Embiid and all the things we say with Embiid, and this is probably very close, but I think Giannis is the most versatile scorer. No, not versatile. That's the wrong word because Embiid's such a better shooter than he is. I think he's the most you know what? Embiid's even changing my narrative. I was going to say he's the most difficult guy that when you need a basket to stop. But, God, Embiid is that guy this year. Going into this year,
yes.
I'm laughing at myself.
Going
into this year, I thought Giannis was the most difficult guy to stop one-on-one.
Let me change my number 3 vote to Tatum.
Tatum was in my
That's not a
Tatum
bad
was
pick.
in my
I'll
head
go
also.
Tatum over Doncic, but they're pretty interchangeable, and I can't stand Tatum. I can't stand him.
See, I go Doncic over him.
Talent level, I'll go Tatum over Doncic. But
I think I would go Tatum over Doncic
would too?
Yeah. Yeah, Jason Tatum makes everybody. He is the definition of making other players around him better.
I think he does that better than Luka does. I think Luka's the better player.
Better player than Jason Tatum?
Yeah.
No,
I really do.
I think Tatum's better.
Man, I think I except for his big rabbit ears. I don't know if you saw what Luka did you? he had the guy removed from behind the bench?
Oh, I did see that, and I
Because
read about it actually this morning. I
the
didn't
guy
see
said,
it.
"Get on the treadmill. You're looking tired. You need to get on the treadmill, Luka." And he had him removed. Fans can't taunt like that.
That's not that bad. Yeah.
That's not bad. He didn't curse. The fan didn't curse. It was picked up on microphone. So it wasn't like he could go back and say, "Well, he said something about my mama or something." But that's weird. You don't even hesitate. You like Tatum better than Luka.
Yeah. He says, I was just looking it up. He says he was cursing at me the whole first half, too.
And he didn't curse when he was on the mic.
Because I never would eject a fan. They paid for tickets, but I had enough. It's a little bit of frustration. All right, so at least he admits he's frustrated. The Mavs are 24-20.
I just think they keep
got crunched last night by Phoenix.
Yeah.
So, and let me finish it up because now I'm thinking of names.
I know, isn't it? See, this is what
it's
we
fun,
do.
Yeah, because it's start
What,
thinking
is somebody
names.
else?
Yeah, and what I'm going to finish up a top 5 because I said Doncic and Tatum are kind of interchangeable. I'll lean towards Tatum for number 3, which makes Doncic number 4. My number 5 might be Anthony Edwards, but that leaves Embiid out of the top 5, and he's clearly a top 5 talent. I think he's the MVP of the league right now.
Yeah,
but
look,
it's amazing
that's not
to me
the question.
Yeah, exactly. I
Right.
can't pick him for a future when I don't know what the future holds for him health-wise. If health wasn't a factor, and this is 2K, then yeah, I'm picking Embiid. But if we're going future, 22-year-old Anthony Edwards
he's fantastic.
He's incredible. So I gotta factor in age and health and.
It's crazy. And, we didn't even mention, and I only say this, I'm not thinking of it, but Kevin Durant's a guy that you could slide in with any stars and still has his game and still wins.
Yep.
That's another guy.
I don't think of Kevin Durant as the guy you build around. I look at Kevin Durant as the guy who keeps trying to find people to fit in with.
Yeah, and he does.
He does. Oh, no, he does.
And we didn't
Absolutely
mention
does.
Steph Curry.
I would never choose Steph right now. If you told me Steph 5 years ago to build around, I mean, it's a franchise. Man, that's
the age
This
thing.
is what me and my friends do. You wonder why I'm on the phone all the time, because we have intriguing conversations like this one.
How do your wives put up with you is what I want to know.
They don't like us that much.
I'm going to say.
They don't. We got together this week and they just kind of ignore us because we're idiots. But that's who we are. It's their fault for marrying us.
9 o'clock hour is brought to you by the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. And for details, go to bagster.com.
This is Joe Cordell.
I would think that they'd want to put everybody into the Bagster yesterday. You brought up an interesting thing, Bob. If Mr. Lurie was in the building yesterday, or Jeffrey Lurie, as you like to say, if he was in the building yesterday, what did he say afterwards? All the people who have come at me in the last 24 hours going, "Oh my gosh, you're just ripping on Nick Sirianni." Yeah, I am. I'm ripping on him for that performance. Did I rip on him when he was doing well? No, I praised him. When you get praised when you're doing stuff well, and you get ripped when you're not. But what would somebody think? And if you want to jump in with us, you can at 610-632-0975. What do you think Mr. Lurie had to say after that press conference? Because I'll tell you this: if you believe it was, I was impressed by that. That was pretty good. You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. If you think that was an embarrassing performance yesterday.
I wonder.
He has
I do.
to think that.
It's tough being out in front of the media and all of those things yesterday. I'm sure there were some nerves that came into play. Nick Sirianni, as we talked about earlier, the first question that was asked of him, he kind of, went all tongue-tied and didn't make much sense. You had Howie interrupting him at times to say, "Oh, whoa, let me get back to something else here," to kind of throw a life raft. I don't know. Say they do go back in the offices and close the door and Jeffrey Lurie is standing there. I don't know if it's good job, guys. Let's get back to work. Let's find us an offensive coordinator.
Oh, okay. Well, that could be.
Don't
now,
know.
that could be.
Maybe.
But it's not. There's no way he says, "Oh, Nick, you killed it out there. That was great, Nick."
Maybe he said, "Good job of not really saying anything. Way to follow script." I don't know. But
that couldn't have been
But
scripted.
if my head coach went out there and said, "Oh, yeah, maybe I'll stop in a meeting of a defensive course. Is that what you want me to do? Stop in a meeting? Yeah, okay, maybe I'll do that. And we're going to bring in an offensive guy that's going to, bring in his way to do things, and maybe we'll sprinkle in some things also." I would maybe call him in separately and say, "Nick, at least act like you do more here, will you?" Because does that look good on an owner?
Well, why
on a
did
general manager?
Why did they keep him? Because they
maybe
can control him.
Maybe. So maybe he comes in and he says, "Good job, Nick. Just don't let him know as much that we don't have you doing that much."
When he got asked
I think I
about,
figured it out. I think he's the coffee guy because remember he got the fans coffee.
yes, he did.
So I think he's just the barista. I think he's the team barista, and maybe he's got that Jimmy Butler in him. Not necessarily with talent, but the ability to make a mean cup of Joe. And he's in there, and he's got the pucks, and he's got the beans, and he's all beaned up. Maybe that's his role on this team. Because that press conference yesterday didn't exactly exude a lot of confidence in terms of what he does. I still don't know.
No, it really was. That was a strange moment. Leonard joins us on The Fanatic. Leonard, welcome in.
Hey, guys. Good morning. So I was calling in and talking to your producer, kind of laughing. And the first thing I thought, or actually during the press conference, was when Sirianni, when the reporter asked Sirianni pretty much from, the Office Space quote, what is it that you guys do here? What is it that you do? I mean, he was essentially trying to explain what he does, and he explained that he's essentially a rah-rah coach. So
he's Tony Robbins.
He's Tony Robbins. So, to be honest, I thought it was quite embarrassing. And there's only one thing that came in my mind after that is he's just a lame duck coach. And if he goes 2-4 within those first 6 games, I'm assuming he's going to get canned pretty quickly.
Bob brought that up earlier about the lame duck. Thanks, Leonard. Like that's I don't like duck to begin with, but the lame duck.
It can be
sounds
tasty.
awful.
Yeah, I don't think I'd like lame duck. I like mine, probably with some kind of a buttery sauce. That would go well. Now, Adam Schefter just reported a couple minutes ago, former Dolphins defensive coordinator Vic Fangio is traveling to Philadelphia this morning to officially sign the contract to become the Eagles' new defensive coordinator.
Welcome in.
Yeah.
Vic Fangio. I think he's from Scranton.
Is that right?
Like Office Space?
You're talking to The Office.
The Office, excuse me. Office,
a little bit
yes.
different, yeah.
I think he is. I think they're from Scranton. I think his family. So that's
I'm sure there's an Office joke in there somewhere.
That's an easy trip.
It seems like
extension.
Seems like Nick Sirianni's got a little Michael Scott in him in terms of leadership ability.
I tell you, the question.
That's pretty good, Pat.
The question where he got asked about the dismissal of Brian Johnson. I'm going to miss him every day. We'd spend you see these guys in the office every day, and I'm going to really miss them. And you have these friendships, and the friendships don't stay the same, but the friendships, they continue. And my daughter's in the car with me. We're driving down to Temple. I'm going to teach. I'm taking her back to campus after a dentist appointment. And she said, first of all, she says, how many can you fit in one answer? But then it was like, what's the relationship here? Who cares? You just fired him.
I knew how to quit you.
Man, it was a bad.
Vic
bad
is
day.
from Dunmore, Pennsylvania.
So it's not Scranton.
Went to East Stroudsburg. It's not far from Scranton.
Okay, yeah.
It's like it's northeast of Wilkes-Barre.
He's an East Stroudsburg guy?
Yeah, went to East Stroudsburg. So 65 years old, I believe. Been around for a while. Yeah, 65 years old. So
I like what Pat said though about that. He won't be leaving for another head coaching job.
No, that's the one thing you don't have to worry about with him. He's not interested in that. I mean, I don't know if it was Schefter or somebody else, but they said one of the reasons why he wanted to mutually part ways with the Dolphins was because his family is up in Pennsylvania. He wants to be closer to them. That makes perfect sense, right? I mean, when people retire, it's like, all right, now it's time to hang out with my grandkids and stuff. And it's amazing that when the Eagles job opens up, that's when he decides, you know what, I think Miami's nice, but I think I'm going to leave. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. I think if the Eagles had kept either Desai or Patricia and there wasn't an opening, I don't know if Vic Fangio is leaving Miami.
You want to share a thought with us? 610-632-0975. Bob's got another speak for yourself on some of what the fallout was from yesterday. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Yes, there was a little bit of a fallout from yesterday.
back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
John Kincade Show on The Fanatic. Joe M. responds to my tweet that it was the worst press conference that I'd ever heard in pro sports. And he says, another loser, negative dude. They said they need to change, and they will. I don't know what you guys expect him to say. But, hey, hate and negativity sells. And then Nick jumps in and says, nah, I think he's spot on. And he says, I don't know what people expected. They admitted they need to change. And I said, competency and legit answers. That is what should be expected. That's what should be expected. Being able to answer a question. And now Bob reads between the lines when we do another version of Speak for Yourself.
And now it's time for Bob Cooney's Speak for Yourself. Here's Bob.
All right, let's have some more fun with this if we can. And like I said, what was the name of the guy that was putting it out there to you, John, a little bit?
Right there?
The guy that was putting you down, saying that you're a negative loser
Oh, yeah, let me see. Negative loser. That was Joe M.
Look, Joe, in all seriousness, I think my friend Mike put it best in a text to me. He goes, I didn't really expect them to say anything. All they did was deflect. And I said, yeah, agree with you, but I didn't think it would be that bad. And it was bad. So another case of it, Nick Sirianni, he was asked about, all right, if you're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, exactly what are they going to do?
Whoever the new coordinator is, there's going to be things that they bring that are going to be fresh ideas for us to help our players grow and help our players play at the top level. And there's been some things that we've done really well on offense, too, in the past that, that you'll mesh in some of that together as well. To me, we got a little bit stale on offense by the end of the year, and these ideas and this new person coming in is meant to take away the staleness and add the value of what they're adding to the offense.
All right, there you go. So the new guy's going to come in. He's going to bring in the fresh bread. Old bread's going to get thrown out. That's stale. Ain't going to happen. You're going to have good sandwiches here. You're going to have freshness here. And pretty much it looks like, well, he's coming in with his own scheme. Maybe I'll sprinkle in a little things that we used to do here. What is it that they used to do that you would like to sprinkle in?
Yeah, I want to know.
No, I mean, I was kind of being serious.
Sprinkling in. I want to see the crossing patterns to A.J. Brown come back. Sprinkling in, I want to see Devontae Smith down the sidelines in those patterns. It's like 15, 20 yards. I want to see a lot of that. Then there's things I want to see, and I want to see a reliance on the running game.
Okay.
I want to see the running game be prevalent again.
So that's where he's going as far as when this new offensive coordinator comes in, they're going to be in charge of getting rid of what was stale from a year ago. All right, the last thing is another Nick Sirianni question. He said, he was asked, why did this offense get stale? Was it the quarterback? Was it the play calling? Was it a combination of everything? And this is his answer.
We all have a hand in it. And anything that happens on that field will always start with me. I don't care if that's offense, defense, or special teams. I'll be on the front of that, where the staleness came from. That was just some stale moments of all of those phases of the game that I just mentioned.
Really?
Stale.
Well, so wait a second. You're in front of the staleness. But earlier in the press conference, you said that maybe you'll start going to a couple of defensive meetings. So how can you be in front of staleness when you don't even know what's being cooked?
But you know stale when you see it.
I
like
guess.
pornography, right?
Yeah, but if I saw staleness, I think I would help bake it fresher. I don't know. It was just a very confusing time yesterday.
Very confusing right now.
I don't think they believed what they were saying. I think the object was to avoid definitive answers at all cost. The gist of it that I got was, like I said to begin the show, it's obvious that they don't put prominence on linebackers or safeties or running backs, and now I'm pretty sure that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman do not put that much on a head coach also.
Pat,
you're kind of just here in label only.
In label only.
Like, when he was asked that question yesterday, all right, you're not running the offense, you're not running the defense, how would you describe what you do? I was waiting for him to pull his shirt up, pull up his hoodie.
Have a T-shirt?
Look, see what it says? It says, Nick Sirianni, head coach. There it is right there.
That's what I do.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's my label.
I can't believe his answer was head coach.
That was a bad.
And he thought that would suffice.
No, but he was
Like,
prepared.
he really thought, like, I'm just going to say head coach, and then they'll move on to the next question. And credit to Tim for following up and be like, no, what does that actually entail? Look, if you've listened to this show, you know I don't dig into press conferences at all. I mean, normally
I don't think, Bob, really you do either to this degree.
But Bob laid it out perfectly, man. I didn't expect it to be good. It took 8 days. And what are they going to tell me that's really going to make me feel better? Well, while I didn't expect it to be good, I also did not expect it to be that bad where they came off completely incompetent.
I mean, that's what it sounded like.
Where now we're sitting here going, man, I really hope that they do find an OC, a really, really good OC, because our hope right now is that Vic Fangio, who will be controlling the defense, gets that shirt up, and that the OC, who's now going to be controlling the offense, that's shirt up. Because if things go awry and things start to spiral like it did last season, there's no one in there to step in and go, all right, I know how to fix it. Because Nick Sirianni certainly doesn't know, because he's getting coffee.
Yeah, so I'll just rehash this maybe for people coming in late. When he was asked, what exactly do you do? He did say, I'm the head coach of the football team. And then Tim McManus followed, said, yeah, but what does that entail? Whatever. He says, does that mean I'll sit more into defensive meetings at times? Maybe. Instead of always being in an offensive meeting, maybe I'll go into a defensive meeting here and there.
Oh, geez.
But my job is the head coach of the team, not the head coach of the offense, not the head coach of the defense, not the head coach of the special teams, but the head coach of the football team.
That answer was so bad. It was just so bad. It says nothing.
Then he goes on to talking about building the culture and, what's important and culture again, relationships with the guys. That reeked to me of emotional intelligence is so high on the board of Jeffrey Lurie. He said it before with Doug Peterson, and now you have a head coach that came out and says, oh, yeah, I don't control the defense. I don't control the offense. I don't control special teams. But I'm the head coach. Okay.
All right, what did they not learn from having Andy Reid in the house for 14 years? Did the organization not learn, especially Jeffrey Lurie? What did they not learn? Andy Reid was a magnificent hire. He was an unproven coach, never had called plays, ran his own offense. Within 2 years, he was given personnel say, and he ran that organization for 14 years, and there were very few downturns. And I don't understand why they had a powerful guy in there who was a commanding presence, who, what did they have? Was it Heckert? I'm trying to think of the names. Joe Banner, Heckert.
Heckert was definitely there, yeah.
I mean, like he worked well with his people behind the scenes. He worked well.
Yeah.
They worked in tandem and did a good job. Why have they not learned? Why did they go? And I'll say it again, Bob, and I know you scoffed at the term the other day, but it's not as bad a term when you know what the term is. The lackey term. Why choose somebody who's going to be for the CEO job of your franchise, the face of the franchise, the guy who speaks for your franchise? Why choose somebody who you just are pulling the strings? You're not as qualified. Howie's not, and Mr. Lurie's not. As much as they want to, I've worked in football, I've been around football, they're not the same as a football guy, like an Andy Reid type, like a guy who comes up through it. Even Nick Sirianni, who's coached a ton of football, at different levels.
So, yeah, they had a guy in Andy Reid that was. He was so good that he became in charge of pretty much everything. And somebody on the YouTube page asked, they said, what are you talking about? Andy Reid, it was said that he never sat in on a defensive meeting either. Okay. But he did have a heavy hand in an offense, and he also did have one of the best defensive coordinators this city ever saw.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when the Eagles lost Brad Childress to the Vikings, you didn't see a dip in their offense.
Exactly, right.
Because it was Andy's offense.
Right.
But because Andy was a good offensive coach. Nick isn't a good offensive coach. He proved that in his first 7 games as a coach.
And he admitted it to us publicly.
And then he basically proved it this past year where they just won on smoke and mirrors because the team was talented.
Yeah, so the way I was starting this out was you had Andy Reid in there. He took control. right? Had very good success, didn't win you a Super Bowl.
All right.
You bring in Chip Kelly, who you thought was going to be something that didn't work. Then you bring in a guy that we all were like, wow, Doug Peterson, he's never coached in the league before. Says that sometimes Andy let him call plays in the second half and then didn't make sense when he tried to explain that. So it seemed at the time a guy that, they're bringing in somebody they can control, somebody that they can tell what to do. And what did that somebody do for this organization? Won you a Super Bowl. So what are you more apt to go back to? Hiring that football guy that's going to have a say on everything and all that Andy Reid did? Or are you going to say, well, guess what we did? We won by us telling what the head coach to do and all that, and we won a Super Bowl that way. Let's do that again.
When Howie started reciting the record yesterday, well, this is Nick's record the last few years. Let me speak here on Nick's behalf. Here's his record the last few years and everything like that. If Nick's on the open market right now, like, honestly, does anybody think that he's a big sought-after commodity? That teams be like,
I do actually, yeah.
Really?
I do, only because
after
he's still
watching
young.
that yesterday.
Well, after yesterday, I think that teams would interview him just based on the fact that in 2 years or whatever it was, he got to the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
So they'd interview him, and I do think that his personality is probably way different in an interview setting than facing the media. And also, you got to factor in, and I said this a lot for the Brian Johnson people that wanted to know why he was getting interviews, even though he wasn't very good. Every team's looking for the young, genius, upstart head coach, and Nick Sirianni's still very young in the league. So I think he would get plenty of interviews, and I think there's a pretty good chance, some team would buy in of, all right, the guy doesn't deal with the press all that well, but our press isn't nearly as bad as Philadelphia's press, and they won't be nearly as hard on him. Like, there's a really good chance if Nick Sirianni is on the open market, he gets hired by the Chargers. There's nobody in LA media that's going to sit there and grill Nick Sirianni like Tim McManus did and go, no. You're not getting off the hook with the head coach line. Follow it up. What do you actually do here? No, nobody's doing that.
It's weird is that we've had Rob Guerrero on, covers the 49ers. On his podcast yesterday, he said, I wish that somebody in the 49ers media corps would question our coaches like this. They're going to the NFC title game. And he says they literally are the most passive questioners of Kyle Shanahan.
There you go. There's a good example.
And he's like, I would love to see somebody in our media corps. He couldn't get over the question of, what do you do here? Can you explain it to us? What is it?
I think the majority of organizations the cities are like that, where it's probably pretty easy.
Yeah, those questions weren't asked of Nick Sirianni last year.
Oh, no, well, you don't
nobody's going to ask it of Shanahan this year.
But Shanahan has had his dips as a coach.
It's funny. You talk about would Sirianni have job offers. Pat, you saying yes. I find it hard. He's not qualified to be a defensive coordinator in the league, right?
No.
He's never been an offensive coordinator in the league and hasn't taken over and gave up the reins of the offense here after 7 games. I don't think anybody'd be apt to hiring as an offensive coordinator. Would you? Do you think anyone would?
No.
No, I really don't.
So you're not qualified to be a coordinator. But, hey, let's bring you in as a head coach. I don't know. I struggle. I think it's a really good question. You can't deny that 2 years ago he was in the Super Bowl. And you can't deny what Howie said was true. At one point, they were 31-6 or whatever the record was with him as a head coach. You can't deny that. But you also can't deny that he did go out yesterday and basically said, I don't do much coaching here.
Yeah, well, so the other reason I'll look at the positives if you're hiring him, and keep in mind too, the hiring process is going to deal with the owner, but the GM of whatever team is going to be heavily involved in that. You get a guy who comes in, he was in the Super Bowl a year ago, and to really, you could say, turn Jalen Hurts into what he is. Do I think he turned him into what he is? No, but you could make the case at least, right? All right, then you factor in the biggest thing. He's not going to ask for personnel control.
There you go. That's a great angle.
The fact that he won't ask for personnel control and he's willing to go, give me whatever you got. I think that would absolutely get him hired.
I didn't think about that angle.
Hey, he's a coordinator's dream.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's not. You're not coming into Miami. Hey, I heard your press conference the other day. This is Vic Fangio talking to Nick Sirianni for the first time. Hey, I heard your press conference the other day. You said some interesting things. But that part about going to defensive meetings here and there, no. Don't worry about that. I got that.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you don't have to come to any meetings.
One of the worst coaches in the past decade in the NFL was Hugh Jackson. He was. I think he won 2 games with the Brown coach in like 3 years, right? Well, if you remember, the Browns, when Hugh Jackson was the coach, they were on Hard Knocks. It was the first time I'd ever seen this, and I'm sure it happens more often, but Todd Haley was their OC.
Right.
And you could tell Todd Haley did not believe in what Hugh Jackson was doing. Hugh Jackson tried to pull the, well, I'm the head coach thing. And if you go back and watch that season and you watch the meetings between these two, Todd Haley's sitting there going, this guy is an idiot. And he doesn't have a clue. And he didn't. And he got fired, and now he's the head coach of Grambling. I wonder if a veteran OC comes in, and maybe this was an issue with Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni, where Brian Johnson wanted to do something, and Sirianni goes, no, that's not the way we're doing it. I'm the head coach. And Brian Johnson's like, yeah, all right, man, whatever. Like, we'll do it your way, but it's going to fail. And maybe that's one of the reasons why there is blowback over firing Brian Johnson. Like, I'm fine with firing Brian Johnson. I'm ready to drive him to the airport. I was cool with that. But there's a chance that this is, and we laid it out last week, that this is Sean McDermott 2.0, where you fired a guy and then, 8 years down the line, you go, wow, we actually had that guy, and now he's a head coach and he's great.
You know what's funny? You brought up Hugh Jackson.
Yeah.
He was brought in to be the offensive coordinator under Bobby Petrino when Bobby Petrino was the coach of the Falcons, when Bobby Petrino quit after 13 games.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this much.
Go Razorbacks.
Hugh Jackson and Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer was the defense coordinator. They both, numerous occasions, I believe, wanted to fight him. Wanted to
fight Petrino?
Yes. Wanted to fight him. And he quit by leaving. He made a photocopied goodbye letter to his players and everything.
Put it in everyone's locker.
And taped them up to everybody's locker and slipped out. And reportedly, Hugh Jackson, on the way out the door, said to him something along the lines of, where are you going? And he goes, oh, I'm just running. I'll be back. Like, I'm going to run an errand. I'll be back.
It's like my dad who left when I was 2 to go get cigarettes and never came back.
Yeah,
he
but
slipped out of the facility.
He was great in The Greatest Showman. We can't deny that.
That's
one of your favorites, isn't it, Pat?
I love Greatest Showman. One of my favorite movies of all time.
That's Hugh Jackman.
Oh.
That's a different guy. He was great in The Greatest Showman, though.
I thought I knew my movie.
Yeah.
No, stay in your lane, Chief.
That was a good one, though.
I promised Pat one time, John, I don't know if I think it might have been before you were here. I promised Pat that I would watch the movie because he kept going on and on.
It's a great movie.
So I sat down.
It's fun.
I texted Pat. I go, all right, I'm sitting down right now to watch it. 7 minutes later,
you were done?
Yeah.
Out. Yeah.
I'll tell you,
John, there was so much
even
blowback.
Zendaya didn't keep him in?
There was so much blowback in this building when I was, much like Jimmy Rollins, I'm stumping for Greatest Showman. I'm singing its praises, literally and figuratively. And there were too many sports guys, I'm not calling anyone names, Bob Cooney, who didn't want to accept, I might toe tap a little bit.
It was a great movie.
To Zac Efron in The Circus. I might be doing that. They didn't want to accept that. There's some people in this industry that still they refuse to watch it.
Names, Pat.
Jamie Lynch, because they're scared. They're scared that if they do watch it, that they will enjoy it. And I'm telling you, if you watch it, it's fun. It's more fun than watching the press conference yesterday. I'll tell you that much.
How about Zendaya? Doesn't get you in there?
She's got pink hair in it, Bobby.
You know where I think it turned me off? I can't get past Zac Efron in High School Musical.
What do you mean?
That's it. I'm stuck with him in High School Musical.
That's who he is?
Because my daughter was right at that age, and I must have seen those. How many was there? 3?
3, yeah.
I must have seen all of them like 10 times each.
See, to me, it's Zendaya. Olivia was in the age, as your daughter was, to watching Shake It Up on the Disney Channel.
Oh, I don't know.
Was a sitcom, and she was one of the 2 stars of it as a young teenage girl. I've had to watch every episode of that with Liv, and I can't get out of my head now that I see her in adult roles. I'm like, wait a minute, that's little Zendaya. No, can't have that.
She's a little bit pretty.
There is the big question out there today, though, is this. And I think it's something that we're all going to have to sort of shake out in our heads and try to figure it out, is that there's a wide open window for this Eagles franchise, people believe, for a championship. But, Pat, you think that the window being open for a championship when conflict arises like this is a problem in a way.
I think that we're seeing the negative of a window being open and a team believing in it with bringing back Sirianni, because I think bringing back Sirianni, and yesterday was proof positive, is a definition of a panic move. They're going, well, we can't fire the coach. We can't fire the coach because the window's open. the window's open and we were just in the Super Bowl and maybe we get back. Maybe we save this. This is a relationship I feel like that like needs to probably end, but you're going like, no, I can save it. I gotta do this and that and jump through hoops. And ultimately your boys are sitting there going, dude, she's not right for you. Or he's not right for you. Like one of the they're not right for you. And yesterday during the press conference, I thought they were going to come out and they were going to give me chalk answers, but it would be chalk that I would go, all right, I expected that, fine, whatever, move on. And when they come out and say the incompetent things they did, like, well, I'm the head coach. What do you do here? And he says nonsense. I think this is the negative. And there's not much of it, but the negative of the window being open, that when bleep hits the fan, you make rash decisions like, well, we can't fire the head coach. We got to keep him here, even though he doesn't really do anything. And even though we don't know, is he sleeping in his office? Is he out getting coffee for fans that are picketing outside? Well, he's certainly not in meetings. He's just watching practice, but we can't mess with that mojo. Like, no, you can. And I think they would have fired him had they not been to the Super Bowl the previous year and had they not considered the window very much open. The fact they consider the window open, they don't want to make wholesale change. So they keep Nick Sirianni as head coach, even though they know it's really just in name only.
But the Pat, I think they would make a move if they thought the roster wasn't still very, very salvageable with good coordinators. Like, I think that if the roster was decrepit, and I do think that there's some age that has to be aged out of the roster. I think that they made a move, but they weren't going to make a move, Bob, because they really do believe with some competent coordinators in here and everything, Nick can get it back on the rails.
That's interesting, and I wish, Pat, you would have brought this up earlier in the day because it's a good discussion.
I'm sorry.
Is keeping him, Nick Sirianni, as your head coach, is keeping him setting you back a year? I mean, next year is going to be a telltale year. If he has a bad year, he's not going to be here, right?
No.
I think we can all pretty much agree on that. Because he got you to a Super Bowl last year. And we can't blow that off. And I've been very careful of that, and I've been mentioning that. But you make an interesting topic here. Are they holding this organization back a year by sticking with the guy maybe mainly because he just went to a Super Bowl last year?
I would equate it for TV fans out there of like, a show probably needs to end, and it was a great show, but they're going to keep it around
like Lost.
A couple more years. I was going to go Walking Dead, but like you got to keep it around because we're not so far removed from the good times. It's like, yeah, but it needs to end. And when you sit there and have a coach sit in front of the media and not be able to answer a simple question, like, guys, if somebody asks us what's your day at work, we'll be able to go. Like, we're in it, this time, and we meet, and then we prep, and we do this, and then we meet out. This guy couldn't even do that. I mean, his press conference yesterday was this. Like, that was it. That's what I heard. I'm Charlie Brown. The gobbledygook, as you say, John.
It's gobbledygook.
So, like, the fact that he's doing nothing basically, and every once in a while I'll pop into a meeting. Well, every once in a while I guess I pop into a sales meeting around here because I just happen to walk by. Like, is that where we're at? We're the head coach of a football team. Every once in a while we'll pop into a meeting.
And look,
cool.
I understand people that are on our YouTube page or callers, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're beating this to death," but I can't believe they said that.
I can't believe it either.
He said, yeah, maybe I'll pop in a meeting here and there. You're the head football coach. Even if that's what happens behind the scenes, is that what you want your fan base knowing that you're doing? That maybe I'll pop into a meeting once in a while? Is that what you want?
I mean, come on.
To a guy that's followed pro sports up close for a long time, that even surprised me.
Yeah, and for the people that are doing it on YouTube, who are like you're beating a dead horse. Me and Bob usually aren't the guys that dissect.
No, you're not.
I mean, like, that's John.
Yes,
that's not us.
No, and I raised my hand.
We're all and that's fine, right? But we're all in lockstep with this one of like, man, this was worse than any of us could have imagined.
Look, if anybody, I'm going to just tell you this, is that if anybody tells you, what's the difference? That wasn't that much different yesterday for a press conference. I'm just going to say that you haven't attended a ton of press conferences or you're not paying attention. That was shockingly crazy yesterday. And the general manager literally stopping the coach mid-answer, mid-rambling, and saying, yeah, let me cut in here. Let me, you mind if I take this one? Or please, ask this question to me. Ask this question to me. That's not normal. And no, that doesn't happen at normal press conferences. It's not. It shows you there's dysfunction here. But they're going after it. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna go with it, and that's what they're doing.
It takes a lot to surprise me in the sports world anymore. And I'll say that, yeah, I'm old. I know all those people out there, whatever. It does take a lot to surprise me. There's not many things I haven't seen before in some way or another. That surprised me yesterday. The answers of Nick Sirianni and describing himself as a head coach, that surprised the hell out of me. It really did. But he did it, and it's over, and that's why we're discussing it.
That's where it is. All right, so Sixers tonight on the Fanatic. Get the Sixers on the Fanatic. Flyers will be in on MMR tonight.
In Detroit.
As they're in Detroit. That last game in Detroit for the Flyers, before we get to the Sixers, was absolutely wild. That's the game they fell behind 5-1.
Oh, yeah, I remember that game.
And then they come back right around Christmas, and then they ended up losing it in overtime.
Right.
But
like 8-7, wasn't it?
They went ahead 6-5.
Yeah.
And gave up a goal. That was an amazing game. So it should be a free-spirited, wild affair. So before we get to here, Harvey, you're on the Fanatic. Good morning, Harvey. Harvey.
Nope.
Sorry, Harvey.
A pass on the press.
So Sixers tonight. Sixers tonight on the Fanatic as the Sixers will try to get this road trip going against Indiana. And you're saying a little hampered Indiana, but without the Sixers, without Tobias Harris potentially due to illness.
Yeah, he's got a sickness. Makes it sound to me like with them announcing it already, he probably didn't get on the plane with them yesterday.
They're afraid of and they don't want to put him on a plane when then they get everybody sick.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't want to do that. So that's probably where it's at. Should he feel better today, he'll get out there on his own, and that'll be okay. But I don't know if you want to start a 5-game road trip with a guy that's not feeling well, throwing him on a plane and then saying, yeah, go out and play. So I'd be surprised if he goes tonight. So hopefully everybody else is ready to go, and I'm anxious to see how this team responds to a game in which their star player had 70 points, because that is a little something. Like, it is a little something. That was an anomaly. That was different. How do you respond to it? Hopefully they just normalcy, comes. But we'll see how they react tonight against a good Indiana team who has struggled since they picked up Siakam, but they're also missing Halliburton too. So we'll see.
And the Sixers in. So you're saying it's too close for me to worry about the 2 seed, Bob, too?
You still have half the season to go. Yeah,
I know, but I mean the 2 seed though will matter.
Okay.
I mean, home court in 2 series?
You do that with 2 weeks to go left, not with 4 months.
Yeah, but it could slip away before then if you don't. I mean, if you don't pay attention to it.
And I could have a baby before then. So it's.
I don't think that's.
I don't think you could. No, that's not accurate.
Buddy.
I don't think that's. Well,
good point.
Maybe you do have legend.
So yesterday I go out with my 2 cousins to meet up because we try to stay together, and we're talking. One's older than me and one's about my age. I said, "Oh, did I tell you guys the news? I'm going to be a grandparent?" And they're like, "What?" They went crazy. I go, well, someday I assume, but yeah, they didn't like.
They didn't like your joke.
They didn't think that was funny. No,
they didn't think your joke was that funny.
No, they often don't think I'm that funny.
That's amazing.
I try.
Must be something. Is it in the bloodline, or is it? Or there or there are funny Coonies.
There's not many Coonies, so I don't know if there are Coonies or not. Funny Coonies or not.
All right, today Andrew Salchunas comes your way next. He'll entertain you. And you'll have your chance to speak with Andrew. And then, of course, the best show ever this afternoon will carry you through the rest of your Thursday. And now, hopefully, there'll be more positive things to look forward to. I can't wait to hear from Vic Fangio. I'm a fan of the move. But now I'm leaning towards somebody really dynamic and really with an exciting idea of offense and younger for Nick Sirianni's staff.
Yeah, that's what the Vic
Fangio
hiring has done for me. I need something dynamic now. Good hire, yeah, fine, expected, I guess all that. I want something dynamic on the offensive side, John.
Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partners, Paul B. Moyer and Sons. Great people. Make a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives. Busy show today. Let's start looking at the offense tomorrow and where's this team going to roll? Or maybe we'll get some news today on that front. Who knows? Because they have a candidate flying into town today to interview. You never know. Stick around all day long. The Fanatic will have it if as things break.